Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are still waiting for other participants to join us, so give us a moment. But thank you so much for joining and welcome to our Young AIPPI Members Summit. So welcome all to our 2024 Young AIPPI Members Virtual Summit. Thank you for being here. I am Samantha from our Young AIPPI Members Advisory Committee, and we are very glad to have you all with us today at this global session. Before we officially start, we'd like to share a couple of housekeeping items with you all for your attention. This event will be recorded and made available on our AIPPI YouTube channel. During the presentations, we kindly ask that you mute yourself, and questions to the speakers can be submitted in the chat box or during the Q&A sessions. If you have any technical problems or questions, please feel free to send a message via the chat box directly to AIPPI events. So some of the slides used today will be made available upon your request. So if you would like any of these slides, please write to the email via events@aippi.org. The email address is on the screen. So thank you very much for joining us. And now I'd like to pass the floor to our chairperson of the Young AIPPI Members Committee to say a few words. Debbie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Samantha, and good day, everyone. It's just really exciting to see so many of you and to be welcoming more people as the day goes on. Again, on behalf of the committee, just really want to extend our warmest welcome to all of you. And this is now the third edition of our annual virtual Young AIPPI Members Summit. Just really excited that you're joining us today. And you're in for a really great program with wonderful content. And as always, it's by our young members and for our young members. So I'm not going to say too much, but if I could just share just three really important things. Number one, a huge thank you to our speakers for their time and contributions and for allowing us to learn from you today. We're just really so excited to learn from you over the course of today and tomorrow as well. Number two, a special thank you as well to the wonderful support from the Bureau, the General Secretariat, as well as the events team. All of you have just been instrumental in bringing all of this together, in addition to our committee members. And we just really want to thank you as well for allowing all of this to happen and for us to have a really smooth sailing 2 days ahead. Number three, the format for this year is slightly different, as you can see. So we're working on feedback that we receive from our members. And this year, we're trying out something new. We're going across 2 days. So today is our global session where everyone's together. And tomorrow are our satellite sessions, which I also hope that you've signed up for. And they contain really great speakers across the regions where we're all placed. We're featuring really exciting topics today. We're talking about ESG and sustainability. We're talking about plants and plant varieties, and we're talking about artificial intelligence. So it's a whole variety of topics. We're also having a life skills session on learning how to thrive in our profession, as well as nurturing our emotional well-being. So that's all I really have to say to start us off. And we're also really, really happy and delighted that Nazli Korkut, who is the Secretary General of AIPPI, is also on the call today with us. At our webinar. And I'd really love to invite her to share some opening remarks with her. So Nazli, I welcome you.
Thank you very much, Debbie. Yes, I'm so glad to be here today. Dear colleagues, dear friends, honored guests, and dear plus ones. Welcome. As Debbie mentioned, my name is Nazlı Korkut. I'm based in Istanbul, Turkey, and I'm the Secretary General of AIPPI. And I'm also a passionate supporter of AIPPI's vibrant young community. Today, as Debbie mentioned, we are celebrating the 3rd anniversary of the Young Summit with around 180 young IP professionals registered for this exciting event. Our young committee, though still young both in its members and its lifespan, because it has been become active only in January 2021, has achieved remarkable milestones worth celebrating, I think. AIPPI strategic pillars emphasize a vision of broader discussions, the improvement and harmonization of IP laws, opportunities for a stronger voice, new format of events, just like this one, and increased interaction with members, the broader IP community. So these goals are achievable thanks to the contributions of our new young generations. We are delighted to witness the growth of AIPPI's young community year by year, showcasing its ability to mobilize the peers, significantly contribute to the AIPPI's outcomes. Alongside the professional development, we see flourishing networks and friendships within this community. Today's global session and tomorrow's satellite sessions feature a diverse array of intriguing topics, from AI to the role of technology in protecting cultural elements, from UPC-based developments and to the plant variety protection. The program crafted by the Young AIPPI Committee and the other speakers, they also address crucial elements for a sustainable and robust organization, our organization, AIPPI, with our speakers covering ESG, sustainability, and the importance of emotional well-being in our professional lives and our lives at all. I hope you thoroughly enjoy the sessions today and tomorrow, engaging in discussions and asking questions that may spark new ideas and questions. Additionally, please note and remember that early bird registration for the upcoming AIPPI Annual World Congress in Hangzhou continues until July the 9th. I now hand over back to Debbie, and I hope you will enjoy these 2 days thoroughly. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazli, and we really appreciate you being with us and sharing your opening remarks with us as well. And I'd just like to echo your comments in saying that from my personal experience, I really love our AIPPI leadership because you just love the young practitioners and are doing so much to support the young practitioners. So it's really something to be absolutely proud of and something that we're so excited to be a part of. So thank you so much. And I guess we're right on time and we can get started already with panel 1. So the hosts for today, across today and tomorrow, are going to be members of our committee. And so you'll get to meet them and hear from them as well as they host these sessions. And so I'd like to invite Halise Atabesh, and she's a member of our committee, and she'll be hosting panel 1. So Halise.
Thank you, Debbie. Good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Welcome to our panel session on ESG and sustainability. My name is Halise. I work as a patent agent at Stock IP Services in Turkey for more than 10 years, and I'm a member of AIPPI since 2015. As Debbie mentioned, I'm also one of the Young AIPPI committee members, and I am delighted hosting the first session today. As businesses and communities across the globe are increasingly recognizing the importance of environmental, social, and governance criteria, and with climate change accelerating, the need for transparent and accountable corporate practice growing, the importance of ESG and sustainability cannot be overstated anymore. Today, our esteemed panelists will share their insights and knowledge on these crucial topics from the IP perspective. Before starting the session, I would like to introduce our panelists shortly. Louis represents the clients in complex commercial litigations before Belgian and European courts and regulatory authorities. He devotes a substantial part of his time to multinational patent litigation. Louis joined the Brussels office of STIF in 2019. And Louisa is a senior associate attorney at law firm MLN Legal in Zurich, Switzerland. She represents and advises clients in all aspects of IP and unfair competition and advertising law. Her focus is on patent and trademark litigation and on pharmaceutical regulatory law. Her practice covers a wide range of industries, including the life sciences, luxury goods, retail, and as is appropriate for a lawyer from Switzerland, she has surprisingly many cases concerning chocolate. And finally, Nadine Hakizimana is the WIPO's Young Youth Engagement Facilitator, and she supports initiatives that help young people unlock their full potential to innovate meaningfully and to benefit from their ingenuity using the global IP system. Thank you all for being with us today. Following the presentations, we will have the Q&A session. Please use the Q&A box below to submit your questions, and please specify which speaker you are addressing. And without further delay, let us begin with our first speaker. Louise, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for your presence today, and thank you, Halide, for the introduction. Today's topic is a very interesting one, in my opinion. I must admit that when I started preparing for this presentation, I realized that the interplay between patent enforcement and ESG has not yet been intensively studied. I believe, however, that this topic is of importance. It's of growing importance because ESG are playing a growing role in business decision making today. In this presentation, I will first say a few words about ESG. Then I will present you with one recent initiative in the field of patent and ESG. And then I will finally look at how ESG can be achieved both when IP enforcement is considered. As you may know, ESG stands for environmental, social, and governance. This concept attracted growing attention since 2004, the year of publication of a report from the United Nations called Who Cares When? Connecting Financial Market to a Changing World. This report aimed at developing guidelines and recommendations on how to better integrate environmental, social, and corporate government issues in asset management, securities brokerage services, and associated activities. As one can see, this concept originated in the field of finance, but however, it has extended to other sectors since then, and it is now relevant for many other industries, including manufacturing or innovative companies. And as I said in the introduction, it plays a growing role in business decision-making. As I will explain later, in the European Union, big corporations are even required to justify their behavior with respect to ESG in their yearly reporting. On this next slide, I reproduced a chart from the United Nations depicting the 17 goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, crafted by the United Nations, and I will let everyone a moment to just go over these 17 goals. As you can see, those goals are very broad in scope. Among many other goals are listed good health and well-being, affordable and clean energy, life on Earth and below water, climate action, etc. Announced earlier, and to give just an example of the growing importance of ESG, I wanted to mention the adoption of a new legal act in the European Union, namely the Directive 2022/2464 on corporate sustainability reporting. This directive was adopted in 2022 as a part of the European Green Deal. For people that don't know, the European Union is a regional organization to which Belgium is a party, and Belgium hosts many of the European institutions. And this directive requires member states, including Belgium, to implement new requirements in their national law. And with these new rules, large companies and listed companies shall include in the management report information which are necessary to understand the company's impact on sustainability matters and information necessary to understand how sustainability matters affect the company's development, performance, and position. In my opinion, this is a very important development which requires companies to delve deep into many facets of their business and to question and reconsider many of the current policies. and practices. It offers me a nice transition to present you a recent initiative in the field of patent and ESG. In 2024, the Swedish IP Office reported on the creation of the ESG Smart Pool, which was established by Marks and Siemens. Marks is the largest Danish corporation, which is also party to the European Union, and is also one of the largest ship owner of the world. It holds a patent portfolio which includes notably biofuel composition technologies and methods for reducing fuel composition in diesel engine. On the other side, Siemens is a German multinational group of companies. It is also the largest industrial company in Europe, and it is notably focused on industrial automation, distributed energy sources, rail transport, and, for example, health technology with medical imaging and many other applications. And this ESG Smart Pool is established by both companies to expedite the adoption of green technologies. Currently, the patent pool is composed of 250 patents that are spanning critical technologies such as energy and transportation and other applications. It is reported to offer swift and efficient patent licensing technologies within ESG, thereby promoting the accomplishment of the sustainability goals. It was established not long ago, but it is reported that other entities, big entities, have already expressed their interest in joining such pool. I just quote briefly Simone Frattasi, which is head of IP at Marks, and when reporting on the creation of this patent pool, he underscored the importance of collaboration in achieving sustainability goals. Last topic that I want to cover today is ESG in IP enforcement, thus ESG application in code. Industry and innovation are the part of the sustainability goals, and IP rights are a tool to fulfill these goals. However, I think there are situations where the classic enforcement of IP rights can be adapted to consider ESG. And I believe that there are many relevant points and questions to be asked in this regard, but I will focus this presentation on two questions, namely the request for an injunction and the request for the destruction of infringing goods. First, when enforcing IP right in court, it is notably so that the proprietor will, in general, ask an injunction against the defendant to stop using the IP right in question, be it a patent, a trademark, or another right. In the field of patent, for example, the proprietor could ask itself whether the injunction request helps him to fulfill ESG, or whether there are better suited alternatives to requesting an injunction. This could notably so in the pharma sector, if there are, for example, no satisfactory treatment alternatives to save the patient in sufficient quantities, the proprietor could look whether, in lieu of an injunction, he could request or could offer a license on reasonable commercial terms. This could also be relevant outside of the pharma sector, for example, in the green technologies sector, where some patents are really necessary to fulfill the ESG goals. Second, if an injunction is granted, the proprietor will also sometimes request the court to order the destruction of the infringing goods. And again, this is a right of the patentee or the IP right holder in many jurisdictions, but it could be considered whether this is the best option to pursue. The proprietor, in some circumstances, could consider alternatives to the destruction of goods. And there are several alternatives, and we can be very creative about it. But some of them include, for example, the sale of the remaining and the existing infringing goods with a license fee, a reasonable license fee. That is a first alternative. A second alternative could be, for example, the handing over of the remaining goods to charities. In my firm, we have, for example, used this possibility in a trademark infringement case in the clothing industries, where the infringing clothing pieces were handed over to a charity rather than destructing them. Another alternative could be that the infringing party is ordered to sell the goods in jurisdictions where the patent is not protected, or the IP right is not protected. And this could be notably relevant for generic medicines. At least in Belgium, a lot of times the destruction of the generic medicines are requested, but we could, for example, find an alternative to have these generic medicines be sent to third countries in need of such medicines instead of being destructed. And of course, I just presented a few examples which could be considered, but there are many more, and we can really be creative around that. By way of conclusion, I hope you have enjoyed this presentation and that it helped you to grasp the importance of the interplay between IP right and ESG. And I think this field will be of growing importance in the future, and I hope it may be discussed at other EIPPI events in the future. I believe that lawyers have their role to play in achieving ESG. We can bring added value to clients when advising on IP enforcement strategies that fulfills the interest of our clients while at the same time achieving ESG objectives. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Luis. I think now Luisa's presentation will give a deeper insight on the topic. Luisa, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I will share my screen and I hope that everything works as it did before. So can you now see my screen? Great. Okay, so as Halise has already said, my name is Luisa Galbraith. I'm from Switzerland and I work at a law firm called MLL Legal in Zurich. So my presentation will be about the so-called green claims. And we can see that those green claims, we will see in a second what they are regulated more and more now, especially in the EU. As I'm from Switzerland, which is not a part of the EU, I will also present the Swiss point of view, which you will see is not that different. So let's start with what are green claims. So those are all diverse examples regarding green claims. We see those very often. We see that the advertisement becomes greener and greener also in color recently. And so green claims, I showed two definitions, one by the OECD and one also by the European Commission. I will not read those out to you, but basically a green claim is any claim with regard to a product, especially in advertising or on the packaging of a product, that refers to beneficial properties of the product or also the manufacturer, the company offering the product. Concerning topics such as environmentally friendly topics or sustainability, or saying that the packaging is recyclable. Also, things like our company's environmental footprint will be reduced by XY% until then and then, or claims that the CO2 emissions of a product were halved, or that there are no such emissions So it's quite a broad definition, green claims. And as I said, they become more and more important. I'm sure you are aware when you watch television or when you look at advertising for products that those are basically just used everywhere and all the time. So the EU and also Switzerland to a certain extent have decided to regulate those green claims more in the future or already now. And so the first question is, why do those green claims need regulation? So what are the actual issues with those claims? Well, the problem also identified by the EU and the legislators is that those claims are used quite broadly and quite often, and oftentimes they're quite vague. They might be misleading, they might be completely unfounded, and that leads to a lack of transparency. And it's also not possible for consumers to actually verify those claims oftentimes. Also, there is a lack of comparability, so they can't, it's hard for them to compare two products based on those claims. And in the end, this leads to a lack of consumer trust in such claims. Such claims do not allow the consumer to make well-informed purchase decisions. So as I said, they might not be able to compare two green claims because they just don't know kind of a standard or what those claims are measured with. They might do not have a foundation. So it's basically consumer protection that's behind those regulations. Another maybe point to consider, which I thought was quite interesting, is that the EU said that there's basically, if those claims are not regulated, there's also no incentive for a company to strive for sustainability, since they cannot, or they can advertise it, but consumers will not take that serious. And they're also not able to differentiate a product that is actually sustainable and uses such claims from a product that is not. So as a company, you will actually not have any benefit of being actually sustainable and using such claims. So those are basically the problems that were identified by the legislator with this respect. So if we quickly go to Switzerland, I can tell you that there is no specific regulations on green claims themselves. However, the general rules of our Federal Act on Unfair Competition apply, which apply to any kind of advertising. And so this act basically prohibits a company from making incorrect or misleading statements about itself, its goods, or also its business relationships on a product or also in the advertising. And so there are not those, this is basically a very general provision. And then there's an institution called the Swiss Commission for Fair Competition, or in German, die Schweizerische Lauterkeitskommission. This is a neutral, independent, private and self-regulation institution for the communications and advertising industry. And so they have issued some guidelines on green claims, trying to define a bit more what this Article 3, Paragraph 1 of the Federal Act on Unfair Competition might mean. And so basically it all boils down to the so-called principle of truth and the principle of clarity. What does this mean? Well, the principle of clarity basically means if you make a green claim, you should inform first whether that claim refers to the whole product or basically only a part of it. You have to inform what the foundation of the claim is. You have to also inform how those measures, so how claimed in the claim, how they exceed basically the industry standard and also maybe something that is prescribed by regulation anyway. And then also you have to say whether the claims apply to the present product or whether they will be applying in the future only. Furthermore, the principle of truth means that the claim, any claim that is made must be based on solid evidence and recognized scientific findings. And there, as you can see in the examples, this is already quite strict. So using, for example, the word sustainable means that the measures taken must clearly exceed existing standards. Designation like CO2 neutral means that emissions are avoided entirely. A climate neutral, for example, means that apart from avoiding all emissions, there's also further measures that are taken to avoid or neutralize negative impacts of a product on climate change. So as you can see, we are already quite strict in Switzerland. So going to the EU, which is of course even stricter and more complicated, I'm already sorry for a lot of text on my slides, but EU regulations are always like that. So on the EU level, there are basically two guidelines that refer to green claims. The first is the so-called EU Directive on Empowering Consumers for the Green Transition. This one has already entered into force in spring 2024, and it must be applied by the member states and implemented into their law until September 2026. And then there's another one that's basically the sister directive. This is the EU Green Claims Directive. The proposal was put forward by the European Commission in March 2023, and it was adopted by the Parliament in March 2024. So we expect that it will enter into force soon. In the green bubble, you also have something that the Vice President of the EU Commission on Transparency said. So as I already discussed, the idea of all this is basically consumer protection. So what does the ECGT say? That's the one that's already in force. Again, this is very strict, I must say, and also very specific. I've tried to somehow summarize a bit what is exactly said in this directive. So the first is that so-called generic environmental claims such as green or energy efficient may not be used without so-called excellent recognized environmental performance. And this excellent recognized environmental performance is basically complying with certain EU regulations or also standards set by the member states themselves in a regulation. Then so-called sustainability labels, they may only be used if they are either established by public authorities, so if they come from the state, or if they are based on a so-called certification scheme. This means that the label user, which is then the company with using the label, the owner and the verification of the label must be done by independent parties. So this means basically a label must be given out by an independent party and then also verified. Then claims on future environmental performance, they must always be clear. You must make very verifiable commitments, and you must have someone, an independent third-party expert who monitors whether you actually reach those commitments that you've given. And also the findings of these experts must be published by consumers. You may not make green claims based on greenhouse gas emission offsets. Then presentation and no mandatory feature that is actually, stipulated by the law or by regulation. So they may not be presented as a distinctive feature in advertising. I have some background noise now. Not sure. Yeah, okay. And then also we've seen that in the Swiss regulation, you're not allowed to say that your whole product is sustainable, for example, if actually it's only aspects of the product. And then there's also certain rules on how you're supposed to inform your consumers on durability and repairability of a product. So you're basically not allowed, for example, to claim that the product is repairable when it's actually not. So going to the Green Claim Directive, as I said, this is not in force yet, and it has not been finalized completely yet. However, I've taken basically 3 topics out of it to show you where this is going. So first of all, the directive will contain rules on the substantiation of green claims. So this basically means you have to show what is behind those claims. Again, you have to say whether only parts of the product or the whole products are concerned. You must show that there is scientific evidence. You must provide accurate information and also take into account international standards if possible. You must demonstrate a significance and that actually what you're claiming is not just equivalent with the industry standard and legal requirements. You must also show that your product performs significantly better than what is common practice in your sector. And you must also identify how the improvement that is subject to your claim leads to whether or how it leads to significant harm in relation to environmental impacts. If that is the case, hopefully not. Then there are rules on the communication of the claim. So the first was basically the basis of the claim. So this is now how are you supposed to communicate your claims? Well, the general rule is that the information on the product or the trader that is subject to the environmental claim and also its substantiation must be available together with the claim. So basically you need to put on your product the substantiation of the claim, showing that it's actually scientifically proven and so on and so on. Or you can also provide a web link or a QR code, but you must always have something on the product that already shows the substantiation of the claim. And then in the communication, again, I'm sorry, my dog is barking. So in the communication of the claim, you must also provide all environmental aspects, impacts, and the performance covered by the claim. You must provide all the underlying studies, calculations, all the scientific evidence. You must refer to international standards again. You must explain how your improvements are actually achieved, what actual measures you are taking. Then you will need a certificate of conformity. I will come back to that in a second. And you must then also provide a summary of all of the above that is understandable to the customer. So again, what I just said must all be made available to the customer, either in the product itself or via a web link, QR code, or equivalent. So it's quite a lot of information that you must provide if you want to use a green claim. Finally, I've already talked about the certificate of conformity, and to me, this is a very odd thing about the Green Claim Directive. The directive says that basically you must submit any green claim that you plan to use to a governmental entity or institution, which will then examine whether this green claim is in line with the requirements of the EU directive. So basically, you're not allowed to use any green claim before submitting it to a governmental institution, which will then probably take ages and ages and ages until you saying that it's okay, and then you can use it. I mean, for us, maybe working with companies and also in the advertising field, it is clear that you will not be able to have an institution examine your green claims for half a year before you can use it, because advertising is very fast-paced. So for me, we will see how this will be implemented, but for me, this basically, I don't know, is not really interesting. It's not really interesting based on this to use green claims any longer at all. So in the end, what's my key advice? Maybe expectation management. I cannot give you very clear advice, since it's still not clear how everything will be implemented, how also courts will see and interpret those new directives. However, what I can do is I can really make you aware of those things. And I would also advise that you make your clients aware of this, because any business that's active in the EU, unless it is very, very small, must follow those rules when they enter into force. So, and I think those regulations are, as you could see, very, very strict. So I would advise not to use any generic green claims. I would not advise to use any green claims that do not have a solid scientific basis. I would recommend any client to collect and compile scientific evidence if a green claim is planned. Also to carefully have checked any green claims by a lawyer or by an expert. Also do not use self-made sustainability labels, and basically also avoid green claims with respect to the future unless there is a very clear plan on how to achieve those goals, and if you have a very clear description of the measures you want to take. And then again, we will see how this certification thing will be implemented. For me, again, as I said, this will basically be ban green claims, since no one will want to do that. But we will see this, and the topic remains very interesting. So this is it from me, and I'm happy to give over to Halise, back to Halise. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luisa. It was really informative. And I will pass the floor on to Nadine.
Hi, thank you so much. Let me just share my screen. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. So hello, everyone. It's such a pleasure to meet the AIPPI youth family. My name is Nadine Hakizimana, and I'm the Youth Engagement Facilitator at the World Intellectual Property Organization. So today I'll be talking to you about the green revolution in invention. Put simply, we're talking about green technology. Okay, so now some people might talk about green tech, others might talk about clean tech. At WIPO, we prefer to talk about green technology. So whichever way you call it, they increase efficiency, performance, productivity, while also decreasing pollution, consumption of resources, and waste. So this sector really spans across various industries, including energy, transportation, and agriculture, incorporating both high-tech solutions as well as traditional knowledge practices. So for young innovators in green technology, I would say the green technology industry really offers a particularly vibrant field with tons of opportunities for research and entrepreneurship. So take a look at these figures. The global green tech market is expected to reach $74 billion by 2030. So honestly, it seems like right now, this is the perfect time to start getting involved in green technology for any young innovator. But let's consider some trends in patent filings for green technology for a moment. So every year, WIPO produces something that's called the Global Innovation Index. So through patent intelligence, we are able to measure where the hotspots in green innovation are. And there are more than 80 indicators for what makes a country or a region an innovation hotspot. So over here, you can see that China, the US, and most of Europe seem to be where most patents in green technology are coming from. But what is glaringly clear as well is the unequal distribution across countries. So take a look for a second at this graph, showing the top 10 countries with PCT patent filings. So year after year, you will probably see the same countries or similar countries in the top 10. And really, it's not because there's a lack of commitment or interest in addressing environmental challenges. Countries worldwide, including those in less developed countries, have recognized and have recognized the urgent need to adapt to climate change. So here we see a list of some of the commitments that many of our developed and developing countries have made related to protecting our environment. And there are many, many more. So these are really just a few. And it's really, the real important thing here is for countries to have a certain political will. That's the key point. The reality is that many low and middle income countries struggle to develop, deploy, or transfer technologies that they need to address the negative impacts of climate change. There are many hurdles, including economic, political or policy-related, legal or regulatory challenges which stand in their way. And these are often further compounded by institutional barriers, like a lack of R&D investment. And it is really, really important to recognize the technological skills divide as well amongst populations, and the need for awareness raising and sensitizing for the adoption of technologies on the ground. Because ultimately it's people on the ground who will use those technologies. So it's important to recognize that there needs to be support around green technology innovation. It doesn't just happen on its own. In order to really reap the benefits of green technology, there needs to be strengthened national innovation ecosystems and fostering of public-private partnerships and collaborations through research and development partnerships, licensing agreements, or sales. There's also scope to leverage the IP system through compulsory licensing, pooling of patents, open licensing models, or even supporting stakeholders with tools to handle IP management and licensing negotiations. This is an area where it really is needed. But something interesting, a new development, and what I would call really the revolution in the green technology space, technology is really making the green space cooler for young people. In the agriculture sector, for example, technological advancements are making farming more appealing and accessible to youth. From precision farming to bioengineering, these technologies reduce labor intensity and increase profitability. And they're essentially attracting a new generation of within the farming sector. So young people are also increasingly bringing frontier technologies to the green technology market and innovating to serve sustainable development objectives. So I want to introduce you to just a few young green innovators who are making significant strides in climate-friendly technology. So first up, we have Kedumetsi Lipi from Botswana, who created the Chedza Solar Backpack, which is an innovation that provides light for students in off-grid communities. He says that his motivation was seeing how school children in his township struggled to do their homework by candlelight. And he decided to develop this solar-powered school bag to enable those children to study at night, effectively giving them a fair chance at a quality education. So technology, the technology that he has developed harnesses the power of the sun. It charges itself during the day using a 6-watt solar panel and generates electricity, which can be used for other purposes as well, not just light. So this technology is patented, and the name Chedza Solar Backpack is trademarked by Kidumetsi as well. So that's really a success story. Then we have Samantha Anderson, who is the co-founder of Depoly SA, which is tackling the plastic waste crisis with chemical recycling technology that she developed. So Depoly's process depolymerizes PET plastic waste at room temperature, converting it to high-quality raw materials. So this not only reduces CO2 emissions, but it also addresses the global challenge of plastic pollution. Then we have another young green innovator who's called Tom Lachkar. His startup, Corlies, involves vertical indoor farming. So by bringing agriculture into urban settings, Corlies helps to reduce the need for food transportation, lowers the carbon footprint, and promotes local sustainable food production. So this approach actually empowers individuals to grow their own food, reducing environmental impact and enhancing food security. So these are small innovations that are actually addressing some kind of problem that these young people have seen in their communities. So all of these young innovators and many others are featured on the WIPO website. And I invite you all to go and have a look yourself. Now, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't talk a bit about WIPO. So at WIPO, we are trying to promote innovation and creativity through a balanced and effective international IP system. But this legal system is actually part of something much broader, which we call an innovation ecosystem. And each country has their own specific innovation ecosystem composed of many elements. Some have to do with investment in education and research and development, access to capital, IP laws and enforcement, laws and policies supporting research and tech development, licensing, branding, marketing, distribution, and even entrepreneurial willingness. And while there was a time when WIPO and intellectual property was only thought of in the context of economic development, today we are past that notion, and IP is very much considered in the context of sustainable development as a means to an end. And this is really the essence of WIPO's development agenda. And part of that involves our efforts to support the deployment of green technologies by connecting those who are experiencing climate change problems with those who have the green technology solutions to those problems. So one of the ways we do this is through our WIPO Green database, where providers can upload their solutions and search for people in need of their technology. The WIPO Green platform also does matchmaking projects. It's almost like a dating app, but for environmental solutions. That's what our acceleration projects do. By connecting technology providers with those facing environmental challenges, we facilitate tailored solutions that resonate locally and globally. So an example of an acceleration project is one that was done in Brazil, Chile, and Argentina on climate smart agriculture. And you can read all about it on our website. So to deliver these projects, WIPO Green has partners from various sectors, multinational corporations, small and medium-sized enterprises, research institutions, and even NGOs. So the point is that we all have a common interest in promoting green technology. So WIPO Green is a free service and there is no fee related to it. We simply define partnerships according to how we work together for a common goal. Now, I want to, oh, my slide is not changing. Okay, there we go. So I want to zoom in on one particular type of green technology that you can find on the database, and these are climate change adaptation technologies. So it's important to consider how these innovations are being applied to adapt to the ever-changing climate, ensuring that resilience and sustainability in our agricultural and environmental practices are kept. So climate change adaptation involves implementing technologies that and practices that help communities adjust to the adverse effects of climate change. So these technologies are important for maintaining agricultural productivity, securing water sources, and protecting livelihoods. So one of the most promising advancements is the development of stress-tolerant crop and livestock varieties. These are specifically bred to withstand extreme weather conditions such as droughts, floods, and high temperatures. By using genetic engineering and traditional breeding techniques, scientists are creating crops that can thrive in really hard conditions, ensuring food security even in the face of climate unpredictability. Effective water management is critical for adapting to climate change. Innovations in water, sanitation, and hygiene ensure that communities have access to clean water and improved sanitation. So techniques such as rainwater harvesting, efficient irrigation systems, and water recycling are being employed to optimize water use and preserve it essentially. Then there are several other types. I'll just breeze through them. Different farming techniques, farming systems, early warning crop insurances. But you can read all about it on the WIPO Green website. So these technologies, I've just mentioned the climate change adaptation technologies, but there are also climate change mitigation technologies. But I won't go into those because I want you guys to go and have a look on the WIPO Green website, as well as on the Green Technology book, where you can read more information about it. There's a whole repository of different adaptation and mitigation technologies. But I'm inclined to say something about frontier. Let me go to the next slide. So this is the Green Technology book that I was talking about. But I'm inclined to say something about frontier green innovation as we venture into the future, and the landscape of green innovation is rapidly evolving with the knowledge that frontier technologies are becoming more and more mainstreamed. New developments like solar paint, which transforms any surface into a potential energy source, and floating wind turbines that harness stronger ocean winds are changing the renewable energy sector. These are actually technologies that are actually being used today. In sustainable agriculture, vertical farming, and precision agriculture are optimizing resources and increase yields for farmers. In addition, innovations in green building materials like hempcrete and recycled plastics are promoting eco-friendly construction. So these are all things that we are seeing today that are part of what we call frontier green innovation. So these frontier green innovations are addressing current environmental issues, and they're also anticipating future challenges. They're also highlighting the important role of continuous investment and support in creating a sustainable future. Now, I already have this slide up, but I want to just mention some of these WIPO resources where you can learn more about green innovation. First and foremost, as I've mentioned, the flagship WIPO Green Technology book, which I encourage all of you to keep an eye out for year after year, because it's an annual publication. The book comes in a digital format as well. But if you're old school, you can also order your hard copy online. And I also encourage you to read up on WIPO's green technology acceleration projects, where you can find them all. You can find them all on the WIPO Green website. So yeah, I think I'll end it there. But let me end it rather here with this conclusion that IP is not an end in itself, but rather a means to an end. And innovation is the catalyst, and sustainable development is the goal. I think I'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadine, for your presentation, especially thinking about the widening social inequalities. I think the strategies are more important than ever. And so we are running a little bit of time. If you have any questions, we can have it on the Q&A box below. If not, I can pass over to Samantha.
Thank you very much, Halise. Thank you so much, Louisa and Nadine, and of course, Halise, for this great session. Very good to know about the importance of ESG IP and also green tech, and to be aware of how we make our green claims. So thank you so much. And now we switch to our life skills session of the summit. And the topic today is very special, and also one of the topics that a lot of our young members have raised interest in, that is thriving in the IP profession, nurturing your emotional well-being and enhancing psychological safety. So in this session, we'll provide you with valuable insights and practical strategies to enhance your well-being, psychological safety, and cultivate a growth mindset, which I think is very important. So our session today will be held by Ms. Monica Hall, founder and CEO of Feliz Consulting, a company that provides customized training, facilitation, and coaching, particularly to the legal and financial industries. So Monica is a corporate trainer and coach with over 20 years of experience. Originally from Brazil, Monica carries with her a passion for life and connection with people. She has lived in New York, Hong Kong, Singapore, and is a coach with the Coach Masters Academy, an accredited consultant with a number of psychometric tools, including mindfulness fundamentals, Genos emotional intelligence, and team psychological safety. Monica's clients range from reputable law firms, large corporations, to governmental bodies, and she coaches and trains in the area of team, psychological safety, communication, executive presence, effective feedback, emotional intelligence, mentoring, and amongst other topics. So I think you're excited as I am, and I'd like to welcome Monica. Over to you, please.
All right. Thank you so much, Samantha. Can everybody hear me? Yes, I hope. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, wherever you are in this summit. First of all, I want to say thank you so much, AIPPI, for having me and particularly Annie Choi from Dickens Hong Kong for inviting me, and all the organizers, and Samantha and everybody behind this summit. And I'm super excited to be here. And thanks to everybody here that is making the time to learn something new, to learn more about what is psychological safety, how can we foster it, how can you incorporate it into your day-to-day to thrive into your IP profession. So Samantha already introduced me, and I'm now based in Hong Kong. It's evening here. Is there anybody in Hong Kong here at the moment? I will make use of the chat box a lot. So I hope people can interact with me and connect here. Anyone based in Hong Kong? A show of hands. Okay, no. Anybody in APAC, Asia? Okay, I see somebody's putting camera on. Kevin, okay. Hello. Okay, awesome. I'm going to the US tomorrow. Anybody in the US? Anybody in the US? Okay, South Korea, great. Okay, you feel free to write on the chat box. China, great, awesome. Okay, so let's dive into what we have. Dubai, okay, yeah, I often go via Dubai to go to Brazil, and so maybe I'll stop by and meet Samantha face to face sometime soon. So let's dive into what we've prepared today. So welcome again, everybody. And to begin, I often start my training sessions, my workshops with a quote. So be the change that you wish to see in the world, Mahatma Gandhi. So everybody thinks of changing someone else, right? A difficult manager, a difficult partner, a colleague, our partners at home and at work. So what can each of us do to be a little bit better, to develop, to grow, to have a growth mindset, and to foster psychological safety as well? So we have here a lot of things. In 45 minutes, we'll include a lot. What does it mean? Why is it important? The research behind it, the 7 questions to reflect. And I'll also give you some practical takeaways, because I could give you all the theory and the research, but I want it to come out. My goal here is that you come out and you say, I understand a bit better about what psychological safety is, and at least one tip on how can I develop it for myself, my team, in my firm. So how can I do a little bit better? So to begin, what is your understanding of psychological safety? So in the chat box, what comes to mind when you think of psychological safety? What comes to mind? It's such a hot topic, lots of people in corporates. I just did a session for SCAD and ARPS. I did a session for SFC. I've done it for MoFo. What comes to mind when you hear about psychological safety? Okay, mental health. What else? A safe space. Okay, what else? There's so many people. Come on, give me a little bit more. Okay, thank you. Balance, open communication, safe to share. Love it. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people talk about psychological safety in the context of emotional well-being and mental health, but it's a lot more than just that piece. It's a lot about speaking up. It's about performance. It's about showing up to your best self at work. So how can we do a little bit more of that? So psychological safety is broadly defined as a climate in which people are comfortable expressing and being themselves. More specifically, when people have psychological safety at work, they feel comfortable sharing concerns and mistakes without fear. So are we safe to speak up? When we make mistakes, are we safe to talk about it, to own up to it, to deal with it? So how is it? And the founder of psychological safety is Dr. Amy Edmondson, with her book, The Fearless Organization, Creating Psychological Safety. And I'll share a little bit more about her and her research as I go through. Now, what is psychological safety and what is psychological danger? So psychological danger is fear of admitting mistakes, blaming others. Team members are less likely to share different views, allowing group dynamics to affect decision. And what is psychological safety? Is we're comfortable admitting mistakes, learning from failure. Everyone openly shares ideas, better innovation, decision-making. And it can be quite hard. I've been working in this area for over 20 years, and with my own business with Feliz Consulting for 9 years and a lot of law firms. And it can be quite hard in a hierarchical environment to have that psychological safety. If you're talking with a partner, you're like, oh, can I speak up? Can I question this? And it's so important that we create environments to speak up. And I know you are in a certain level of your career, but as you develop, are you also creating these environments as you get up in this career ladder? Or in the jungle gym, and as I feel it's better described. Now, psychological safety is being able to give and receive feedback, raise issues and concerns, disagree, ask for clarification, ask difficult questions, ask for help, offer solutions to problems, admit errors. So this is psychological safety. Now, there's a lot of research showing why it's important. So it's important not only in the workplace, but also in schools, in social groups. It helps with our well-being and team dynamics. It helps identify problems before they escalate, before they become more serious. It helps with talent management and retention, helps with deeper connection, inclusion, and a true sense of belonging. Now, it's really crucial for high-performing teams. And it's funny how we talk about psychological safety in the context of mental health, and it's really, really important, but it's a lot deeper. It involves so many things. And I'm going to share with you the research from Dr. Amy Edmondson. Has anyone here heard of Dr. Amy Edmondson or the research? Anybody? Show of hands, yes, no, on the group? Maybe not, you're all here. So Dr. Amy Edmondson actually did a research at Harvard, and she wanted to find out what teams were doing and how they were performing. And in her initial research at Harvard, she thought that she would find that teams that made fewer mistakes were more successful, were more, had a higher retention, were high performance. And she was doing this in a hospital. But to her surprise, she found out that the teams in hospitals, so you think of the doctors, paramedics, nurses, the teams who made more mistakes and admitted those mistakes had a high performance. Sorry, Monica, am I hearing correctly? More mistakes and higher performance? Yes. So what she found out is teams who, let's say, I am a nurse, and let's say Nicholas, who has his camera on, is a doctor. And I feel safe speaking up to Nicholas and saying, Nicholas, I spotted a mistake, or is this correct? Can we double check? So if I was brave to speak up about a mistake I saw with Nicholas or my team or about anything else, that my team would perform better, that we had what it's called psychological safety. So that is the key differential in terms of high-performing teams and teams that are developed rather than the ones that are not. And it's kind of a counterintuitive thing to think about, because when we work in a place like a hospital or in a law firm where there are a lot of high stakes and high consequences, to think, okay, if I make a mistake, is it okay to speak up? Or can I speak up about anything else, about my identity, about who I am, about problems at home, about my mental health issues? Then would this be better for my team and for myself? And the research shows that yes, but we need to, of course, create environments, create processes about speaking up, create process to have a safe space for all of this. Now, if you want your team to truly excel, you need to foster an environment where people feel safe to speak up, share ideas, and challenge one another. That's the key to unlocking and sustaining high performance. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft. Cultivating psychological safety is the single most important thing leaders can do to unlock their team's full potential and drive real sustainable change. It's the foundation of innovation, risk-taking, and high performance. Sheryl Sandberg, former COO of Facebook. So there's a lot of research. You understand better what psychological safety is, the initial research of Dr. Amy Edmondson, and why it's so important for teams and for firms or for any business to foster it. Now, where do we begin? Why is this such a hot topic everywhere? And I'm getting a lot of good work because of psychological safety, which I'm really grateful for. So Project Aristotle came up. What was Project Aristotle? Project Aristotle was a project done over 2 years, looking at 180 teams, over 37,000 people at Google. So Google wanted to find out what made their teams across the globe, across different functions, departments, do well or others not do so well. What made them high performing and others not? And the research was in depth. And what they found out was the key element of the high performing teams was psychological safety. It wasn't putting the smartest people in the room. It wasn't having the top leader. Although all these things are helpful and foundations, it was psychological safety, the ability to speak up and take risks without fear of repercussion and consequences. So Project Aristotle was a research initiative undertaken by Julia Rurovsky at Google to understand what makes a successful high-performing team. Google wanted to figure out why some teams perform better than others, even when they had similar skill levels and backgrounds. So one of the crucial findings of the project was the concept of psychological safety. The research found that teams with high psychological safety perform better, and they're more collaborative, productive, and resilient. So in the research, there were 5 key elements, and psychological safety was number 1. Second one was dependability. Team members get things done on time and meet Google's high bar for excellence with dependability. 3, structure and clarity. Team members have clear roles, plans, and goals. Number 4, meaning. It's important that the job is meaningful. Work is personally important to the team members. And 5, team members think their work matters and creates positive change. But the number 1 element was psychological safety. And then we saw a lot about it in the news. So in the past 8 years or so, Google's research, psychological safety, that's all the buzzword in the corporate world. And that's why we're also doing a session on psychological safety. Now, true or false? Can I have on the chat box, what do you think? Smartest individuals in a team guarantee team success. True or false? What do you think? False, thank you. Yeah, false. It's not the smartest people in the room. Personalities and backgrounds determine team success. True or false? Personalities and backgrounds determine team success. Put all the extroverts there. True? No, not really. You can put all the great personalities, all the backgrounds, all the Ivy Leagues in the room, and in fact, it may create more tension in the group rather than psychological safety and team performance. Strong leadership alone ensures team success. True or false? False. Yay, you're scoring high. Well done, AIPPI. Strict rules and structures lead to team success. False. Good. So they're all false. Oh, there is one more. Individual performance drives team success. That is even worse. You get that 1 star in the team and that one person that is all about them. In fact, some companies, I've done a session recently to the Women's Foundation in Hong Kong, and some companies like Bloomberg have a failure wall. So they have something where people put up once a month, once a week, they put Post-it notes, something they failed at and what they've learned from it. So we actually need to talk more about failures, about mistakes, about setbacks to create more psychological safety. All right, so you all got all this correct. Well done. So we understand the psychological safety, the Project Aristotle. There will be a test after today. I hope everybody is up on the research. No, there is no test. You can relax. So psychological safety, Dr. Amy Edmondson, PhD at Harvard. What did she do? She created 7 simple questions and statements to gauge the levels of psychological safety within an organization. So I would like to encourage you to consider them for yourself, for your teams, for your organization. So what are these questions? And please, let's reflect. So do we have more cameras on or no? Is everybody camera shy? Let me see. Okay, everybody's here, but multitasking. That's okay. So usually I ask people to read it for me, but I'm gonna spare you from this interaction, but I'm gonna read it for us. Oh, good, Pooja. Hi, Pooja. Good afternoon. Would you mind putting your yes, thank you.
Hi.
Hello, can you speak a little louder, please?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Where are you located?
From Mumbai, India.
From Mumbai. Thank you for joining, Pooja. Pooja, do you mind reading the first 3 questions with volume and emphasis so everybody can hear you?
Sure.
Thank
If
you.
you make a mistake, will it be held against you? Are the members of this team able and encouraged to bring up problems and tough issues? Do people on this team sometimes reject others for being different?
Thank you, Pooja. Now, Nevin, do you mind reading the next 2 for us, please?
Is it that the number 3, right? Do people on this team sometimes reject others for being different? Is it safe to take a risk on this team?
Okay, thank you. Samantha, can I ask you to read the last few for us, please?
Sure. So is it difficult to ask other members of this team for help? Would someone on this team deliberately act in a way that undermines efforts? Working with members of this team, are my unique skills and talents valued and utilized?
Right, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being good sport and reading it. So I would love for you, wherever you are, from Mumbai to China to Dubai to the US, to either take a screenshot of this or get a piece of paper and reflect a little bit on it. So where you are, if you make a mistake, is it held against you? Are the members of your team, of this team, able and encouraged to bring up problems and tough issues, whatever they are? So 3, do people on this team sometimes reject others for being different, for their sexual orientation, for their style, for their communication, whatever it is, or for their family status, whatever nationality? Is it safe to take a risk on this team? Number 5, is it difficult to ask other team members for help? 6, would someone on this team deliberately act in a way that undermines your efforts? Working with members of these teams, are my unique skills and talents valued and utilized? So those are the questions created by Dr. Amy Edmondson to try to gauge where are you in your organization? Is your organization fostering psychological safety? How can you work on this with yourself and speak up more, encourage one another, also appreciate one another? Because as you can see from these questions, there's also appreciation, taking risks, accepting diversity. So there are a lot of elements, and all these elements make psychological safety. Now, we're gonna move along to something that I often share, which is this psychological safety, motivation, accountability quadrant. What happens many times is a lot of people have a low psychological safety and a low motivation. So they don't feel they can speak up, they don't feel motivated for it, and they fall into the apathy zone. Or they fall into the comfort zone. They feel psychological safety, they speak up, but they don't care. They don't have the motivation or accountability. And then what I also see a lot is the orange zone, which is the anxiety zone, where people are motivated to speak up, they are accountable, they're committed to their jobs, to their tests, whatever it is, but they feel anxious about speaking up. I can't speak up to the partner. I can't speak up to the manager. I can't speak up to this or that. And that just gets bottled down, right? So where do we want to be? How do we want to develop? I would encourage all of us to aim to be at the learning zone. How can we be in an environment where we can speak up, we can have psychological safety, but still stay motivated and accountable? Because a lot of people may think that psychological safety, anything counts, it's all about my mental health, it's my individuality. No, it's also about accountability, about motivation, about finding that balance and aiming to be in the learning zone. And I'll give you today some nano tips, and I know we only have 45 minutes, and I've just done this program of 4 sessions of 3 hours each over 4 weeks, so we can go a lot deeper, right, if we have exercise and scenarios. But I promise I'll give you some tips that will help you, that I hope will help you, but also help your teams in your firm and wherever you are. So accountability is essential to personal growth as well as team growth. How can you improve if you're never wrong? If you don't admit a mistake and take responsibility for it, you're bound to make the same one again. Pat Summitt. So we need to be accountable, but we also need to work on developing ourselves. How can I do a little bit better? And that is the growth mindset. How can I learn from my mistakes? How can I keep learning rather than, oh, I'm not good at this. I am, or I'm being black and white about how we learn and how we develop. So this is the 7 elements developed by Dr. Peter Cavalier. So Dr. Peter Cavalier did a PhD on team development. He's Belgian, but based in Thailand, and he developed over 6 years ago, it's kind of like a psychometrical test, a profile where companies can measure their team psychological safety with their teams. And he worked closely with Dr. Amy Edmondson in this, and he came up with 7 elements of team psychological safety. And these 7 elements are basically mirroring the questions of Dr. Amy Edmondson. So again, this is all for your reflection. 1, dealing with issues. Is this a problem in your organization? Accepting and embracing diversity. Taking risks, looking for mutual support, asking for help, appreciation, and reaction to mistakes. So all these 7 elements are what we make of team psychological safety. So questions again to explore and reflect is, number 1, do you feel seen at work? So I'd love to see on the chat box, how many of you would say yes or no to number 1? Do you feel seen at work? Yes or no? Sometimes. What are your questions for number 1? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, some privates coming too. Yes, wonderful. Yeah. So it's so important we are seen for who we are. Our color, our gender, our sexual orientation, whoever we are we seen? Number 2, do you feel supported at work? Yes or no? Or sometimes? Yes or no? Or sometimes, Monica? Yes, yes. Wonderful. Yes, lovely. And seeing all different names now coming up. Do you feel connected at work? How connected are you with your colleagues? And then it's funny because I think COVID has, in a way, brought up a collective empathy, because everybody has suffered in some way or another, or lost people and experienced a collective empathy. But also, COVID created a tough situation where we could connect in person, right? Because we're working from home, we're all far away, but we've hopefully are learning to balance it out. And it's super important that we connect with one another, that we connect with our colleagues. It's not only about getting that job done, and psychological safety is about creating these connections as well. Do you feel proud of yourself in your work? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you feel proud of your work? Yes. Yes, awesome. Right? And if you some of the answers are sometimes or not always, it's also okay, because how can we keep working on it, right? How can we develop? And that's the number 5. What can you do to enhance psychological safety in your team, in your organization? And hopefully after today, you can get some tips that you can increase it for yourself and for your team as well. So we talk about psychological safety, Project Aristotle. I wish we had like more, I could see people's face and have more interaction, but I'm going to give you some tips and little tools on what you can do yourself. So how can you start with nurturing your emotional well-being? As psychological safety has this deep element with the self first, here are some quick 5 tips, and that in a way, they are very obvious, but are we doing it? Are we practicing it, right? Number 1, practice self-care. Make time each day for activities to help you relax, recharge, reconnect with yourself, such as taking a warm bath, going for a walk, reading, practice mindfulness meditation, or just taking a few minutes for deep breathing and staying in the moment. So for me, my daily practice, I use an app called Calm, and I do it every day. I've been doing it for 5 years, Calm app. And it's 10 minutes, and I also have a mood check-in with the app. So that's my mindfulness practice to ground myself. I'm also really into audiobooks. I love listening to audiobooks. I can go to the subway, get a taxi, and I'm listening and learning something new and enjoying. I love a good coffee. So what are the things that you can do a little bit more that can nurture your emotional well-being? Number 2, build a support network. Spend quality time with close friends and family and that understand you, that uplift you. Share your feelings openly with them and get their support when need. And do your best to create that support network also in your firms, in your companies, right? How can you create this support network? Can you start employees ERGs, employees resource group? Can you create a group just for women or LGBTQ+, or to celebrate food, or to create a book club at work? There's so many things that we can do to create those support network and these deeper connections. Number 3, keep a gratitude journal. Take a few minutes each day to write down things you're grateful for, no matter how small they are. This can help shift your mindset to focus on something more positive. That's something that I also do with the Calm app. Every morning prompts me with 3 things that I'm grateful for. Now, some days I do a little bit deeper work. Sometimes I say, oh, I'm grateful that it's sunshine and my coffee, and that's it, right? Sometimes it's a little bit something else. So I encourage you to develop it. And there's some great podcasts, some great practices. Another thing that I often do is I ask myself 3 questions in the morning. So this is something I've heard on a podcast. And first thing, what is my priority of today? We have so many things, and you're lawyers, you're all so busy. We're all busy people. What is your priority? Is it that one proposal? Is it that one task? Or is it your mental health and your mental well-being? Is it like, I really need to disconnect today. I'm overwhelmed. I'm on the verge of a break, like of stress. Listen to your priority, okay? That's the number 1 thing. And we have so many things to do and to remember. So think of what is your 1 priority. Number 2, what are you grateful for? What is the second thing, one thing that day that you're grateful for, that you want to acknowledge? Number 3, what quality do I want to show the world today? I love that question, because sometimes we just go into our day without much purpose, without much thinking. And many days for me is, okay, today I'm going to be patient. Or today I'm going to be positive because I know I'm going to be dealing with some tough issues, right? So I have 2 kids. I have a 19-year-old daughter. I have a 17-year-old son. So some days it's just about being in that moment and think, what can I focus on today, and what quality do I want to show the world, right? And then number 4, become a more positive mental debater. For all of us with imposter syndrome, does anyone here have imposter syndrome? Like, oh, can I do it? Is it okay? Right? And I see some smiles there. We're humans. We all do. Like today I'm here with 70, 80 people. Yesterday I had a workshop for a French international school with 60 teenager kids, right? It's like that positive mental debate and waking up, telling yourself, I can do this, I got it. And being kind to yourself as well. And even if it's just, okay, this is all I can do, and that's okay. And then number 5, developing positive habits. Now, it's small but constant improvement. For me, I do 20 push-ups in the morning, and I exercise twice a week, but that 20 push-ups in the morning, and every year I increased one push-up. This year I decreased. Instead of going for 24, because the year 2023, I did 23 push-ups, 2022, 22. This year I'm like, okay, if I keep increasing, I can't do it. So small but constant. Develop better habits. I have a habit. I listen to at least 25 books a year. So it started with 10. Now I increased it a little bit. So we could go on and share. I would love to hear some of you too. If you have any tips, please put it on the chat box as well. This is focused on really your psychological safety, your emotional well-being. And these are some quick but practical tools that I hope help. Practice self-care, be kind to yourself, build a support network, have a gratitude journal, become a positive mental debater, and develop positive habits. Now, moving along to 8 quick tips, and we have, I was told we have 15 minutes left, so Monica, be mindful of time. So what are some of the key tips? And again, I've mentioned to you how I've done workshops that we have a lot more time and group discussions, breakout rooms. This is some key things that can help you. 1, have clear goals and accountability. 2, walk the talk. 3, practice active listening. 4, communicate authentically and openly. 5, ask more questions. We need to ask more questions with less assumptions. Find shared experiences. 7, practice empathy. 8, replace blame and judgment for curiosity. So lots of takeaways, practical tips. Now, let's go with number 1. Identify clear goals in the meetings and performance conversation. Revise your goals monthly, quarterly with your partner, with your colleagues, with your team. Clarify roles and responsibilities. Make sure goals and accountability set on both ways. Point out expected behaviors, not only the tasks, but this is the behavior. I expect we to speak up, to communicate, right? Number 2, walk the talk. If you want to create a culture of psychological safety, you have to create an environment that you're walking the talk. This means modeling the behavior you want to see and hold on others accountable in the same way. Ask yourself, what am I doing well? Write down weekly gratitude and reinforcing and reflection on it. Ask yourself 1 to 3 things that you can do better. Also, weekly with my team, I ask them to write every week 3 things that they're doing well and they're grateful for. Adopt a growth mindset. We can all learn. We can all develop. We are a work in progress. Be honest with yourself, humble and curious. 3, practice active listening. We could do a whole workshop just on active listening. If you take nothing from today, active listening is the key. Verbal and non-verbal cues, your posture, your body language, making eye contact, being present, intention to listen and understand. And I want to share with you LAPEC. What does LAPEC stand for? What does L stand for? This is an acronym to help us better listen, to help us be more present. What does the L stand for? Anyone? Bueller? Okay, well, listen as in active listening of making eye contact, nodding, being present, acknowledging, paraphrasing, repeating or understanding with your own words. Oh, I hear you're going through a tough period with your mom. That is tough. I hear you. Answer. Okay, so you need some time to decompress. Let's see what we can do. And then confirm your understanding. Instead, we listen poorly and we answer wrongly. So I encourage you to slow down, paraphrase, use LAPEC as in listen, actively acknowledge, paraphrase, answer, and confirm. Communicate authentically and openly. So Samantha, can you read for us authenticity, please?
Authenticity is not something we have or don't have. It's a practice, a conscious choice of how we want to live. Authenticity is a collection of choices that we have to make every day. It's about the choice to show up and be real, the choice to be honest, the choice to let our true selves be seen.
Thank you, Brené Brown. So authenticity is so overused. Oh, you're authentic or you're not. We're all a work in progress. How can we keep speaking up, being honest with ourselves, the choice we make, right? So it's really important to keep working on it. Know yourself, be honest, embrace your imperfections. Nobody's perfect, none of us. We all have our moments. Practice self-expression, self-compassion, be more vulnerable. Number 5, find shared experience. Encourage yourself and your team members to participate, to find common ground, join starting meetings in different committees with an icebreaker, organize more team building, DEI, socials, celebrations, book club. So all of these may seem as additional things. They are crucial to develop more psychological safety. Number 6, ask questions. The power to question is the basis of all human progress, Indira Gandhi. Can we ask more questions? Start with open and non-judgmental questions. What are your thoughts, your views? Tell me more. How does it work? What could we do better, different? What have we learned? And in blue here, when making mistakes, what have I learned from it? This is a crucial question from psychological safety. It's not ruminating on the problem. Yes, we need to learn from mistakes. We need to get better processes. We need to hold people accountable, but it's about the learning and how can we do better next time. 7, practice empathy. Encourage yourself and your team members to practice empathy, to step on each other's shoes, to gain different perspectives, right? So that's so important. I would love to show a quick video, but we're kind of tight on time. Do I have 2 extra minutes or no, Samantha? Yes? Yes? Or okay, I will take you as a yes. Okay, quick video in 3 minutes.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, climb down. I know what it's like down here and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
All right, so I really encourage all of you. I hope you like the video. Brené Brown is amazing, and working on empathy, to truly listen, to be present, not try to solution things all the time. Sometimes we need empathy. We don't need solutioning. We don't need people telling us what to do. Oh, do that, you feel better, do that. I just want to be heard. I just want somebody to be empathetic with me and be present. So I ask you, are you empathetic with others? Can you be a little bit more? And that is close with active listening. And how can you ask people as well? I need you to just listen, to be here with me, right? And go deep into the work of Brené Brown. Thank you, everybody. So listen actively, avoid solutioning. Empathy is about holding space and considering feelings and emotions. Last but not least, replacing blaming and judgment for curiosity. This is a key element as well to foster psychological safety. When issues arise, remember, we do not know everything. Approach your team and the issue with curiosity rather than blame. Blame is short-sighted. Let it be known that everyone makes mistakes. And then again, the key question is, what have I learned from it? What have we learned from this? And how can we do better? Right? So lots of key nano tips with walking the talk, LAPEC with listening, empathy, replacing blame with curiosity, right? Having more shared experiences. So we are coming to the end. I told the organizers and Samantha that time management is an issue for me. I love my work. I love the training. And I would love to hear at least one word or something on the chat box. What resonated with you today? We talked about what psychological safety is, why is it important, the 7 elements, some key things you can do to foster it in terms of your personal and your emotional well-being, but also in your teams. What is at least one thing that you've learned that you can do differently or a little bit better after the session? What is at least one thing? Anything on the chat box before you go free? What is one takeaway? Okay, listening, LAPEC. Emphasis on fostering the human connection with the team, active listening, empathy. Thank you. Empathy, right? Develop a positive habit. Wonderful, right? LAPEC. Awesome, right? Understanding psychological safety, right? The work of Amy Edmondson, Gratitude Journal. Thank you so much, everybody. So I leave you with my contact details, but if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to stay behind, but I know there are other speakers coming up. So I'll pass it back to Samantha. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so very much, Monica, for this very interactive session and so many good tips and food for thoughts for all of us. Psychological safety is definitely something that we probably sometimes just put aside when we're really busy and so occupied in our profession. So thank you very much for bringing this so important topic to us and bringing it into light. So thank you very much, Monica, for your time and for really fostering the young AIPPI members community. So thank you very much for your dedication. I know that it's very late for you, but thank you so much for joining us once again.
All right, thank you. Have a nice day for the rest of the sessions.
Thank you so much, Monica. So next up, we will have another interesting panel that will be on plant and plant variety rights. So I'd like to pass this on to our moderator and host of our next panel, Nevin Jacob Koshi, who is also from our Young Members Committee. Thank you very much, Nevin. I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Samantha. What a great session we had. Thank you, Monica, for that. Hello, everyone. It's my honor to welcome you to this global panel session, which will cover the topic, latest developments in plant and plant variety rights. I thank each and every one of you for dedicating a valuable time to join us for today's session. I'm Nevin Jacob Koshi, a partner and patent attorney with 14 years of experience in practicing in the UAE and the MENA region. I have been involved with AIPPI for over a decade, currently holding multiple roles with the association. Today, as a member of AIPPI's Young Members Advisory Committee, I'm honored to be moderating this session. Our discussion promises to be enlightening and insightful, thanks to our esteemed speakers who bring a wealth of expertise and diverse perspectives to the table. First, we have Selina, a lawyer qualified in Italy, notable for her expertise in safeguarding intellectual property related to plant innovations and providing consulting services in agribusiness. Joining Selina is Soli Koban, a senior attorney at Deris IP Attorneys in Istanbul, specializing in patent litigation and unfair competition proceedings before Turkish courts. Since we have exactly 30 minutes for the session, I'll encourage the participants to raise the questions in the chat window so that towards the end of the session, if we can take a couple of questions depending on the time, I will do so. Now to our first speaker, a short bio. Selina is an Italian qualified lawyer specializing in IP protection for plant innovation and agribusiness consulting. Her passion for the plant breeding industry has shaped her extensive international career, marked by significant professional roles across European countries. She holds an honor degree in international business law and an LLM in food law. Selina began her journey in leading law firms in Italy and Denmark, focusing on IP and agri-food law. In recent years, she served as a legal unit and registry trainee at the Community Plant Variety Office in France, and later as legal counsel at Ciopora in Germany, an international organization representing horticultural breeders globally. She recently joined AIPPI and is a newly appointed member of the AIPPI Standing Committee on Plant Varieties. Returning to Italy, Selina has resumed her legal practice and now serves as counsel at Web Legal, a law firm based in southern Italy. The floor is yours, Selina.
Thank you very much, Nevin, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. And it seems a proper timing to speak about fruit, since at least in Italy it's lunchtime. So, of course, and due to the time constraint, I will try to be very quick, and I will give you an overview about the scope of plant variety rights in relation to some contractual clauses restricting the freedom of the producer in selling the fruit. So I will share my screen. Just a moment. Here we are. Okay, just 1 second. I hope that you can see it properly now. So what I would like to bring to the discussion today is the aftermath of quite important case that was recently decided by the Italian Supreme Court just in last April, so it's a very recent one. And this is interesting because actually, even though it's from an Italian court, but it relates to European PVR protection and has some effect also on the international setting. So as we are gonna see. So I decided to title that Who Reaps the Fruit of the Harvest, because this will be the main question that I will try to answer. So let's go. First of all, I thought appropriate to provide you with a small overview of the IP framework for plant variety rights, because some of you may not be familiar with this field of IP law. So PVR is a sui generis regime that was established with the TRIPS agreement Article 27.3b of the TRIPS agreement, which states that members should provide for the protection of plant variety, either by patents or by an effective sui generis system, or by a combination of thereof. So we have at the international level the UPOV Convention, which was established in 1961 and then, and then revised in 3 times. And the last version that we have is in 1991. At the European level, this was the UPOV Convention was basically transposed at EU level with the CPVO regulation, which is the regulation number 2100 of 1994, which also has to be read with the implementing rules. So, given this background, we go now in the scope of protection. As you can see from here, as I said, there is an international framework, and the main provision about the scope of breeders' rights is Article 14 of the UPOV 91, which says that the breeder authorization is required for production or reproduction, conditioning, offering for sale, selling, or other marketing, exporting, importing, and stocking, propagating material of the variety protected. Just in case the breeder's authorization was not, this kind of act occurred without the breeder's authorization, in that case, the breeder right extends to the harvested material. With this, of course, unless the breeder has had a reasonable opportunity to exercise his right. And also, the UPOV Convention provides for the member states, so the contracting party, which are part of the UPOV Convention, to extend also to the product of the harvested material the scope of breeder protection. So that's what happened basically in the UPOV, in the European Union framework, because the basic regulation, which is the one that I named before, the 2194, provides also for the protection on the fruits in the case of unauthorized use of the propagation material. So let's move. I hope that it's quite clear, but we are gonna come again on this topic when we go in the practical case. So the practical case. We are in the presence of a lease agreement with the grape producer. So that was entered into between the an American international breeding company and an Italian table grape producer. This agreement concerned the CPVR, so the European protected seedless red table grape variety Sugar 90, trademarked as Scarlata seedless. And as you can see, since we are talking about a lease agreement, it's a contract of called of mixed nature because it also encompasses IP rights. So the object of this contract was namely the license against payment of a fee for the producer to receive lots of the leased plants. So you can notice this kind of a particular how can say name for the protected plant material. So receive these plants from the breeder or through a licensed nursery and to plant and grow such leased plants on the land of the producer. So the landowner or controlled by the authorized producer. On the other side, it also provides for the possibility to harvest, sell, or otherwise provide the proprietary fruit produced from these plants to a licensed distributor. So, as you can see, both sides, the producer and also the distributor that will receive the fruit has to be authorized by the breeder in this kind of contractual chain. So, to sum up, relevant contractual clauses were that the grape grower has to obtain the buds exclusively from authorized and licensed nurseries. However, in this case, there was a second contract that derogated to this provision. And so basically, eventually, the buds were obtained by non-authorized nursery, but still a nursery that was in the network of the breeder. So, but in any case, there was a signed contract providing for this exception, let's say. On the other hand, the fruit produced from the leased plant has to be marked by an authorized breeder's distributor. The designation of the chosen distributor had to be done upstream, upon communication to the breeder. So, what happened is that for what concerned the harvest in 2016, the producer claimed that due to heavy floods and also the unavailability of the distributor, was not possible basically to harvest in due time. So the harvest was not possible to sell it as fruit for like table grape. As a consequence of this, there was the breeder claimed for the breach of contractual condition that you can see listed here. So one of them was also the non-payment of the royalty of the fee, and claimed for the termination of the contract for breach. Then there was the opening of the arbitration proceeding before the Chamber of Arbitration of Milan in order to ascertain the breach of contract and declare the termination of its termination. Plus, of course, compensation of damages, penalties, and legal costs. In that framework, so in the framework of the arbitration proceeding, the producer claimed that, put forward a claim for nullity of the grapes producer lease agreement pursuant to Article 13, paragraph 3 that we saw before, just before. So basically the cascade principle. So basically the CPVR owner, the CPVR did not extend to the harvesting material because the propagating material was obtained on the basis of a contract, so was authorized to do that. On the other hand, there was an Italian provision, since we say that it was a contract of a mixed nature. So also some civil law provision applied to the case. And so the Article 1615 of the Italian Civil Code saying that, to keep it simple, that the fruit should be to the producer. So it has the right to enjoy and manage the productive phase. And lastly, Article 16, with in conjunction with Article 13, which relates to the PBR exhaustion. So the point was that, the contractual clause is in the contract, in the main contract that we mentioned before, that stated that the breeder is the owner of the lizard plants, but the fruit produced by the lizard plants are for the producer, pursuant to the article that I mentioned before. However, it also says that it also provides for the authorized producer to arrange such fruits according to the limitation and condition set forth in the contract. So basically restricting what's happening, Nevin. I can see in your hand.
Yeah, Selena, just you have 2 more minutes.
Okay, I will not. Sure. Okay, so basically there was a proceeding. The Court of Appeal confirmed the position of the arbitration court, that saying basically that the contract was terminated and the producer did not fulfill the contract. But when it comes to the Italian Supreme Court of Cassation, the court upheld the producer claim, basically setting aside the Court of Appeal's judgment and remitting the case to the same Court of Appeal for a new examination on the ground of the court found that there were some specific errores in procedendo and errores in iudicando. In particular, the errores in iudicando involve the violation of a principle that is represent an essential value of the system, and the specific case was lack of violation of a public policy, which is was defined by the court in this way that I will skip for time constraint. So why? Because agricultural production constitutes a public interest. That, sorry for this, you can see it, that public interest in safeguarding agricultural production must be where we are, has to be safeguarded. Then the protection that is allowed, is granted to the breeder, must not go beyond what is indispensable to encourage the innovation activity. So in this case, the breeding activity. So just to keep it short, the Court of Cassation referred to the interpretation given by the another court case, given by the European Court of Justice in the another court case, which according to the Court of Cassation had erga omnes effect, so has to be implemented in also in the case at hand.
Sorry, Selena. So
yeah.
Almost there. So if you could wrap it up properly.
This is the principle stated by the Court of Cassation. So on the subject of community plant variety rights, a contractual clause which gives the holder of intellectual property rights over new plant varieties also the power to identify the person to whom only the distribution of fruit obtained by authorized producer will be entrusted, where the latter, so the propagating material are, where the material are unusable as propagating material, is null and void for contrary to public order, on the ground of the provision that we already said. So I had to cut a lot, but I hope that was enough clear. And thank you very much in any case for this opportunity, and I'm open to the questions.
Thank you, Selena. I know it's always challenging when you have to deal with court cases and then explain both the sides. So I would cut short the questionnaire session, and then I would encourage the participants to put in directly in the chat session, or I'm sure you must have already seen the email ID of the speaker, so you should be able to get in touch with Selena directly also. So our next speaker, Soli. Soli is a seasoned patent litigator specializing in patent and utility model infringement and unfair competition cases in the Turkish courts. She serves as a senior attorney at Deris IP Attorneys in Istanbul, where she plays a pivotal role in patents team. Her practice involves representing and advising both local and international clients in complex, multi-jurisdictional patent disputes, particularly within the pharmaceutical, agriculture, chemical, and biotech sectors. Beyond litigation, Soli handles a diverse array of non-contentious matters, including IP prosecution and data protection issues. She is actively involved in professional organizations, currently holding membership in the AIPPI Pharma and Patent Committees, and serving as an observer in the Biotech Committee. Notably, she has been a featured speaker representing the Pharma Committee at annual meetings in San Francisco and Istanbul. She is also a winner of 2024 LMG Life Sciences IP Rising Star of the Year Award in EMEA region. Congrats on that, Solia. With that, over to you, Solia. Now to the participants, the first session we have heard about the PVP. Now Soli is gonna talk completely different on different aspects of protecting plant varieties. So the floor is yours, Soli.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Minding the time constraint, I will go into the presentation. So the purpose of this presentation is to explore the European Parliament's proposal on to ban plant patents relating to new genomic techniques, so-called NGTs. So today I will go over the current legislative landscape over plant patents and what our new genomic techniques are, and European Parliament's proposal, and afterwards I will discuss a little about what are the positions in the IP society. So in order to understand what the proposal entails, we should be first looking into the current legislation. Plants are protected by patents, and as Selena mentioned, they are protected by plant variety rights, and they can be protected by utility models where applicable. So Biotech Directive, which is proposed to be amended right now, does not allow patenting of plant varieties and essentially biological processes for the production of plants, which is exactly in many countries, and plant varieties are not protected by patents, and most of the countries are like this globally, so not just in the EU. But what are patentable and also related to plants? A biotech invention relating to plants could be patentable. For example, injecting soybeans with certain enzymes to make them resistant against herbicides, so the farmers will be able to control weeds by not damaging soybean crops. And inventions which concern plants, if the technical feasibility of the invention is not confined to a particular plant variety. I know it's a mouthful. An example for this could be gene editing tools that can be used to modify the DNA of many plant varieties. And microbiological or other technical processes, for example, a process for cultivating a certain type of bacteria to improve soil structure. Needless to say, of course, all these inventions still need to carry other patentability conditions such as novelty, inventive step, and industrial applicability. And Biotech Directive was that. And of course, there is the EPC. Same regulation applies in the EPC as in the Biotech Directive. In addition to that, there are also EPO case law that shapes plant patents, such as broccoli and tomato cases, which says that non-essentially biological processes could be patented As you may recall, Biotech Directive was saying that essentially biological processes cannot be patented, so they are in line. And Pepper case mentions the same thing and also says a technical process that modifies genetic characteristic can be patented, which means that NGTs can be patented. So plants are also protected by CPVR and UPO. Thanks to Selena, I will be bypassing them. And of course, the national laws of the EU member states, which are in line with Biotech Directive as it applies to the EU or all EU. So as I said, this mentions this proposal is about new genomic techniques applying to plants. So what are NGTs, right? NGTs are defined as techniques capable to change the genetic material of an organism. So by adding, deleting, or altering DNA with gene editing tools, you can reach an NGT. NGTs are not only in plants, but also in animals, in pharmaceutical industry, and also industrial applicability is there. But for the sake of this presentation, I will be talking about NGTs in plants, and which enhances, for example, the nutrition in a plant. For example, you can boost a tomato with amino acids, so you would be lowering your blood pressure when you eat that tomato. They have better climate resilience, so on. So there are lots of benefits of a gene-edited crop. So this was NGTs, and this was the current legislation. So what is the proposal, right? So those who are not familiar with lawmaking process in the EU, there are certain bodies that can amend and propose new legislation. One of them is European Commission. So European Commission had an original proposal which divided NGTs in two categories. And they were aiming to relax the rules on NGT1, so they can hit the market more easy without any bureaucratic steps. And this proposal, the original proposal, did not contain any provisions relating to intellectual property. So we would not be talking about this if the European Parliament had not came with a surprise. So the surprise came with the amendments by the members of the EU Parliament to ban all patents on NGT plants by amending the Biotech Directive we just talked about. So this is not only related to plants, this is also relates to plant material, their parts, their genetic information, and the processes to obtain them, such as gene editing tools. And this amendment was voted in the Parliament in February, and it was accepted. So, and as you can see from the wording of the new article, there is no distinction between NGT1 and NGT2. And also, the talks are, and it has been suggested that for patents already granted and pending, patent applications covering plant material, the effects of patents could be limited as well. So it's really concerning to have this and also losing your already granted patent. As I said, the proposal does not make any distinction between NGT1 but with NGT2, but there has been a compromise text proposed by Belgian presidency, and which mainly rests on NGT1 and NGT2 distinction. So I will just mention what are they. NGT1 plants, which are considered to be equivalent of conventional plants, and they shall not involve more than 20 genetic modifications compared to parent plants, whereas NGT2 plants are all other varieties, and they are more extensively modified. So the laws putting an NGT plant into market is so much stricter than NGT1. I will not get into that because it is not related to patent ban actually. So I will go on to say what is the next steps in this proposal and what could happen. So the proposal is right now moved to the Council of the EU after Parliament had approved it, and the Council may accept or amend this proposal. Right now, the Council and the Parliament will come together and they negotiate. So the Council may not accept this, and there are the EU countries are split on this patent ban on NGTs. So there is still hope for plant patents. And what is the Belgian presidency of the EU Council proposed? Their compromise text involves a patent ban only for NGT1 plants, or the patent holders should not exercise their rights relating to NGT1 plants, and NGT2 plants are still patentable based on this compromise text. But as far as my research goes on the media, there has not been really support for this Belgian compromise text. So we are still looking for the wording from the Council of the EU. Okay. What is the pros and cons of this proposal? And there have been, of course, some communities and societies, such as IP Society, are against it. For example, AIPPI, EPI, FICPI, Euroseeds, which is a national seed association, and IFEO, an organics group, had provided their concerns relating to this patent ban, and we have prepared a position paper in Biotech and Patents Committee against this proposal, and there have been a really setback from IP Society, and which basically gives the based on the fact that patents should be present, because they foster innovation, they foster competitiveness of the EU, and of course the benefits of a modified crop, a modified plant. And of course, against this patent ban, the breeders and farmers organizations had conducted a really good lobbying that had evaluated and escalated this patent ban. Those in favor speculate that the changes will give farmers and breeders greater access required technology and without less economical burden, because they have to pay license fees to agritech companies. Aside from that, which is actually the important point, is the consequences of this proposal if it is accepted. So if the proposal is accepted, NGT plants should be protected only by the plant variety rights, and therefore plant variety rights may become increasingly important way of protecting intellectual property relating to plants. And if the amendment is accepted, there could be legal uncertainty about the status of the existing European patents granted under the EPC. It is likely that there would be measures to mitigate legal uncertainty, and the amendment could include a clause allowing all European patents granted before the amendment to remain valid until their full term, or the opposite, they could invalidate existing NGT plant patents, which would cause an uprise. And if the amendment is accepted, it will change the EU law, but it will not change the EPC automatically and directly. And differences between EU law and the EPC could lead to legal conflicts, particularly if these patents are recognized under the EPC but are not enforceable in the EU region. Therefore, the amendments to the directive would also require a harmonization between EU regulation and the EPC. And last but not least, as the amendment will force to change EPO practice and EPC framework, let's be honest, it will also affect non-EU countries that are EPC contracting states, and also members of the WIPO, which are contracting states to PCT. Right now,
sorry. We are just running out of time. If you could wrap it up probably in the next 15 seconds.
Okay, 2 sentences.
Yes.
Right now, there is no such planned patent in the EPCT for the countries which are looking to enter a EU country with its planned patent application through PCT. They may face a rejection in the national phase. Done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're running a marathon here. I'm conscious of the time because we need to get into the break so that the participants can have it and go to the next session. So in closing, I want to thank my deepest appreciation for the speakers, Selina and Soli, for sharing their insight and expertise with us today. We look forward to continuing these discussions in our future sessions as well. With that, panel 2 has ended. Over to you, Debbie.
Thank you so much, Nevin. And again, thank you so much to all the speakers. It's been a great 2 hours plus. I do apologize for running a little bit behind time, but that just shows that everyone's just so much to share. We are resuming at the hour with our final session, an hour-long session on artificial intelligence. So yes, I invite you to just have a break, get something to drink, something, and come back in just 4.5 minutes from now. Thank you so much. In the meantime, just for those that are sitting and just catching a break in your seats, we also, for those who are new and are not have not yet joined our WhatsApp group, the young members do have a WhatsApp group, and we also invite you to join the group. And I'll just post a link right now. So it's just where people are congregated and we share information. And as we lead up to the Congress in Hangzhou, opportunity for us to discuss and see what we can do whilst there. Right, very quickly, 5 minutes goes by. We are now at the top of the hour, and we will now have a final session for the global day, and that is the very exciting topic of artificial intelligence. We've got a wonderful panel of speakers as always, and I'd like to just invite our host, Jaewon Yoon, to take the floor.
Thank you, Debbie. Welcome to our final session, even though we have coffee and networking break at the end. But it is a great honor to be able to moderate these sessions. My name is Jaewon Yoon, and I work at Yoon & Lee International Patent Law Firm located in Seoul, South Korea. I joined the AI-PPI in 2014, and I am a member of the Young AI PPI Advisory Committee. So I would like to provide a quick note that if you have any questions for the speakers, please add them to the chat box and indicate to whom the question is directed. And we will be able to answer some of them during the Q&A at the end. And our speakers, as Debbie says, will discuss the new legal landscape and latest infringement issues of artificial intelligence. And I'm pleased to introduce our first speaker. Please welcome Fiona Zhang from Kangxin Partners PC, who will share the latest news and updates on the development of the generative AI in China. As a partner, senior associate, and lawyer and trademark attorney, Fiona has had the privilege of working with the numerous renowned clients globally, and has been recognized as one of the senior experts at the China Trademark Association, offering her expertise in professional services in enterprises, law firms, and university students across China. Fiona, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And let me share my screen. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Hi. Thank you so much for your sweet introduction, Jin, and hello everyone, and good morning, and good afternoon, and good evening, everyone here. And I'm so honorable and pleasure to be here to share something about the China generative AI regulations and the copyrights. And today I will focus on these three parts, and first to quickly go through the developments and the changes of generative AI in China, and then we will see some examination trends behind the landmark case for generative AI case in China, and then we can see some requirements and the liability of generative AI services providers in China. And so first, let's get started from the developments and the changes of the generative AI in China. And generally with the rapid development of the generative AI, and we have felt that with powered by the deep neural networks and the feature extraction together with the generative model, and generative AI has made significant strides in various application areas, and from the text and image generation to audio and video production, and the ability to automatically extract features and generate new data similar to the real data marks a great change in deep learning technology. But know that, as mentioned by many lawyers and attorneys, together with the researchers, judges, and the authoritors, it's also important to pay attention to the potential risk and the challenges in terms of the data privacy and security, together with the creativity and the diversity limits, along with the content quality and credibility, along with the legal issues. And we think that all of these issues that we need to confront and overcome. Oh, let me see. Oh, okay. So next, let's say a landmark case for generative AI in China, concerning the famous IP character about the Ultraman in cartoons, and which has already sparked a debate on copyright infringement in relation to the generative AI. And from this case,
sorry, Fiona. I think if we're not seeing your slides on the screen.
Oh,
yeah, it's sort of the other way around.
I'm so
you don't
sorry.
mind doing it? Oh no, don't worry.
Yeah. So it's available.
Yes, that's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Debbie. Here, and from the case background, and the plaintiff, a Shanghai company who has served as the authorized licensee of a Japanese company who holds the legal right to use the copyright concerning the Ultraman IP character in the worldwide. But during their routine monitoring services, the plaintiff discovered an infringement, particularly the part, namely that the images created by a website named Type, and on the Type, which is specialized in providing the AI-driven conversation and the drawing services. And upon the Type website, the customers or the users are allowed to input some promote orders for the creation of drawings. And the plaintiff also claims that the images generated by these promote orders has you can see the pictures, and the ones are the images created by the Type, which is quite similar to the Ultraman, which is the copyrighted work owned by the Japanese and the Shanghai company. So the plaintiff also claimed that the images created by the Type website has seriously infringed and damaged their prior copyright on the Ultraman. And during the court hearing, and the plaintiff also mentioned that during that infringement, and they also required the high financial compensation from the defendants, and also required them to cease the infringement activities. And during the court proceedings, and the defendants also claims that the images are created by the users or the customers based on their own promote orders. And for that part, have already out of their control or out of their ability. So, and further, during they received the complaints from the plaintiff, and they also take some proactive measures to stop the infringement activities, such as disabling the relevant link and clearly communicating with the importance of the IP protection, and also contacting the customers, namely the users, and also the plaintiff for the peaceful compromise. So during the process, and the defendants also argued that these actions could further serve as a commitment to good faith and also a diligent fulfilling of their obligations. But how that the courts think about the dispute during the generative AI dispute in this case, and after the examination of the case, the court supported the copyright infringement because the images are quite similar, and the defendants also created the AI or the images through the Type website without the permission from the plaintiff. So this is very obvious. So the court also supported the copyright infringement. But during the court and during the litigation or the lawsuit, and the court also balanced the the IP protection together with the advancement of the generative AI technology in China. So in this regard, the court also decide to reduce the financial compensation from the defendants. based on the proactive actions that the defendants also taken during the process. So in the judgment, and the Guangzhou Internet Court also emphasized that AI is a extractive technology that leads the future as the core driving force of the new round of technological revolution and industrial transformation, and is considered the main front of developing new quality production, the rapid development of our country's AI technology, the increasing richness of data and computing resources, and the continuous expansion of application areas have laid a solid foundation for AI innovation. So considering the generative AI industry is still in its early stages of development. So it's necessary to balance the protection of rights and the development of the industry. And it's not advisable to overly burden the obligations of service providers. So in the process of rapid technological advancement, service providers should proactively fulfill the reasonable and affordable duties of care, so thereby contributing to the promotion of a Chinese-style AI government system that balance the safety with the development and also the innovation with protection. So from this case, although the copyright infringement has already been supported, but during the court hearing, the court also balanced the AI technology developments, also the needs or the requirements from China or the worldwide, and also the IP protection here. So from this case, we can see the current examination trends in China. So as you can see that in China, there is no formal laws implement for the generated AI services in China right now, but the government and the Beijing Supreme Court also issued the regulations and the guidelines for the management of generative AI services to help verify and uniform the standards in the similar types of cases or the disputes in practice. So in the guidance lines or the regulations, and we think that, of course, it's the safest approach to obtain the authorization on a case-by-case basis. But generally, this is not very critical or feasible because there are huge original images of the data or text data behind or the before creation based on a generative AI technology. So under this circumstance, it's also recommended to focus on the proactively fulfill the responsibilities or the obligations of the service providers or the relevant platforms to reduce the risk of infringement and to also do something help to reduce the financial compensation or the relevant requirements from the plaintiff, especially for the relevance of the following factors, such as cease the infringement and, if possible, remove the related materials from the training database upon receipt of the complaints from the plaintiff or the real holders. And then after receiving the complaints, it's also important to employ all possible keyword filtering to cease the generation or the relative infringement activities. And then it's also important for the platforms or the service providers to establish and improve the complaints or the relevant reporting measures of the system to set up the convenient channels for the complaints of the users, and also announce the importance of the famous and the importance of the IP protection to the users during the use the generative AI technology on the website or the platform. And after that, it's also important to fulfill the obligations to warn the potential risk and also clearly inform the users and ensure that users have the clear understanding of the potential risk to others, and especially for some copyright holders or the real holders when using the generative AI services on the website or the platforms, and also provides a prominent the important or the identification notice on the platform. Providers of the generative AI should also apply the permanent identification to works what they may cause confusion or with those produced by the humans, and also clearly indicate that they are produced by AI, and then take more targeted and effective measures to protect the rights. So these are some detailed articles and the clause indicated by the guidelines and the regulations issued by the government or the Supreme Court. We think that and all of the obligation is quite similar to the common infringement and enforcement cases or the disputes. But right now, we are also monitoring the development of the IP protection in China, and we'll also be delighted to update some more development, maybe the next AIPPI or next time. So I think this is all from my side, and thank you so much for your time and your attention here, and thank you so much for your time spent with me. So let's get over to Jiwen for the next.
Thank you,
so
Fiona,
much.
for
Yes.
your
Thank you so
excellent
much.
presentations. And we can see the China's course point of view about the generative AI. So our next speaker is Renate Keizers. Renate is a senior associate and Dutch lawyer at De Brauw Blackstone Westenberg, the Netherlands' largest law firm. She is a litigations expert with the broad experience of proceedings before Dutch courts. In her work, Renate specifically focuses on IP law, and she will be discussing the new European AI Act from the copyright perspective. Renate, over to you.
Thank you so much, Daewon. I think my slides are on the screen currently, so let's start it. It's I think, am I?
Can double click to shift to the.
Let me see. I don't know what. I am back. Can you hear me again?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. My Zoom suddenly said quitting unexpectedly. So far for the non-technical errors here. Let's try again.
Okay.
Now I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can
Yes.
see your screen
Great.
too.
Let's try again. It's even moving. Without further ado, let's get started. I am very happy to be speaking on the EU AI Act, especially today. It's a ever-developing area. As you may have heard yesterday in the US, it was announced that there's a lawsuit filed by major record companies that are suing some AI music generators for mass infringement of copyrights. So in my opinion, this topic is hot and happening, and I would like to look at an EU perspective with you today. To do so, I've prepared a short presentation on, first of all, the EU AI Act in a nutshell. After that, I would like to discuss the use of copyright protected works by an AI system and the liability for that of AI system providers. And then lastly, look at what happens when AI generated output enters the copyright legal landscape. But first, let's start with the EU AI Act. It's quite arrogantly dubbed by the European Commission as the first comprehensive AI law in the world. I don't know whether that's true, but at least it's a comprehensive act. I think it's about 500 pages all in all. And the European Commission has chosen a risk-based approach for 4 categories of AI systems. And the more risk basically the system poses for fundamental rights of EU citizens, the stricter the obligations are. So the most strict category is systems with unacceptable risk. Those are, for example, AI systems using subliminal techniques, facial recognition databases, and those will be prohibited fully. A lesser category is, for example, the high-risk AI systems where AI is used for infrastructure, education, democratic processes, or, for example, recruitment. Those systems are bound by strict risk management procedures and transparency obligations. Funnily enough, generative AI is a bit of an old one out. This is because when the AI Act first draft was already presented, only then generative AI systems actually took a flight up. So they've been only added later, and that explains why they have a bit of a weird position in the AI Act. They're called general purpose AI systems, and I think the most important thing to know now, because we'll zoom into them later, is that there's transparency obligations and some requirements on technical documentation for Gen AI. Before zooming into those generative AI, I also want to point out two practical things to you. We are wondering whether there will be some kind of a Brussels effect stemming from the EU AI Act, because the territorial scope of the AI Act is rather broad. It is also applicable to non-EU providers. So if the provider is located in, say, the States or Japan or whatever, if it uses the AI system in Europe, in the European Union, the EU AI Act will still be applicable. So it will be interesting to see whether worldwide, globally, providers of AI systems will actually adhere to the AI Act already as from the start, as to be able to use their system in the European Union as well. Well, lastly, there will be an AI office in several national authorities monitoring compliance and providing information. When zooming into the use of or on generative AI rights and copyrights, the first problem is obviously that those generative AI systems are so very smart because they learn from millions and millions of documents, which they mine from the internet. It goes without saying that most likely there are also copyright protected works amongst those documents. And already in the 2019 Copyright Directive, it was laid down that under European law, text and data mining is considered a copyright infringement. However, of course, two exceptions were also introduced. The first one is for research and cultural heritage purposes. And the second one, I think, is commercially the most interesting one, as it is the most broad one, because it says that whatever the purpose of the text and data mining, as long as the work is accessed lawfully and the right holder has not made an express reservation of rights in an appropriate manner, such as machine readable means, text and data mining of that copyrighted work is allowed. It is interesting to see that the AI Act in this regard has only added an obligation for AI system providers to have a policy in place to comply with these reservations. But what we see currently in practice is that there is, of course, a lot of nervousness surrounding these new obligations, because it's currently unclear when there is an express reservation of rights, what is actually machine readable. And what you see on the one hand is that there's many copyright holders that tend to reserve rights in every and any way they can. On the other hand, we also see AI systems providing kind of opt-out forms, which are obviously not sufficient if they only respect those reservations of rights. And on the other hand, again, we see copyright holders as well as AI system providers to kind of come up with the technical means to make these reservations. But before one of them really becomes successful, we would, of course, need a broad support for that specific technical means. In the meantime, the most interesting part, I think, is that you see a lot of collective management associations running around demanding fair licenses which in the one hand I think is a good solution to this reservation of right problem. However, I don't know whether the European Commission is actually happy with it, because what happens if licenses need to be paid? I think that means that startup AI systems and smaller AI systems will at some point not be able to compete with the bigger systems that are able to pay all these licenses. And the European Commission may not be happy about that, because one of the goals of the AI Act is to actually foster innovation. So we'll have to see about that. And of course, the flip side of this is that if a copyrighted work is actually used, how is a copyright holder actually able to establish whether that is the case, and thus whether there is an infringement? On this point, the AI Act obliges providers of an AI system to publish sufficiently detailed summaries of the content that they use for training, according to a template. However, of course, as with any new law, but this article has raised many more questions than it's answered. First of all, we don't know yet what this template looked like. It's also, of course, a very vague description to say sufficiently detailed. Luckily, the recitals of the AI Act gives some guidance in saying that it needs to be a generally comprehensive summary, not so much focused on technical details, but more on the scope. So in a narrative form, listing the major data collections that have been used for training. And we also already know that there is an obligation for the AI office to monitor this obligation, but that they will not be doing a work-by-work assessment. All in all, I have the feeling that this means that even though there is some thought here for copyright holders to kind of protect their work, it's still kind of a black box what actually went into an AI system. So as with the US case, I think it's waiting for the first European big case to come along and centralize this point. One interesting thing I want to take you with is a proposal. I've even underlined it on the slides, but it is not yet, it hasn't even been put up for voting, I think. So it's really, really still a question whether this ever really comes into force. But I wanted to mention it anyways, because it introduces 3 procedural aids for claimants. So a discovery claim, and 2 rebuttable presumptions of 1 non-compliance and 2 of a causal link between the fault and output. And the last rebuttable presumption, as you can also see on the last bullet, with non-high-risk systems such as generative AI, those can only be applied by the courts if they consider it excessively difficult for the claimant to prove causal link. I think, well, that's my personal prediction. I think if this directive would be adopted and then implemented into the different member states, this may play quite a big role in liability litigation between copyright holders and AI system providers. For the mere fact that I think the black box that is AI systems sometimes is on the one hand not obliged to provide much openness by the AI Act, and on the other hand, the damages for copyright holders for the use of their works may be substantial. So for my part, this is, I think, something to watch with an eye to liability litigation. Moving to the other side of the spectrum, of course, AI is not only infringing, but it is also generating works. So the next thing I want to briefly highlight is whether AI-generated output can actually generate copyright protection. The first thing to note, I think, is that this is where one of the transparency obligations of the AI Act comes into play. The AI Act obliges AI systems to mark their output as AI generated or manipulated. So that at least there's always, again, in the machine readable means, but there's always a way to figure out whether something is AI generated. Whether such a output from AI systems actually generates copyright protection is unclear. I think that's the red thread throughout this whole presentation. There's a lot unclear still, and one of them is these questions. The current predictions are that whenever a work is purely generated by an AI system, it will most likely not be protected in the EU, as the EU copyright law requires an own intellectual creation. So that requires some human creative choices. Of course, when there's human interaction with an AI system generating that output, it would be possible to gain copyright protection. And that would be the case if there are those sufficient creative choices are made at different stages, it could be. So for example, if the prompts are sufficiently creative, or if the output is amended in, I would say, Photoshop after the AI system has generated it, it would be arguable that there is some protection. And then, of course, as the AI-generated output will start to flood the market, the question is also, of course, whether these AI-generated outputs will actually be able to infringe other copyrighted works. As said, the red thread, also this is unclear as there is no case law yet, but it is most likely an infringement on part of the user of an AI system, if that user specifically aims at infringement, for example, by giving specific prompts directed at nearing the AI copyrighted, the previous copyrighted work. I think this was also one of the examples of the Chinese cases that Fiona just discussed. And there will most likely be an infringement on part of the provider of the AI system if that AI system did not put sufficient safeguards in place. An interesting development I want to close off with in this regard, I think, is that some of the generative AI providers have already included indemnities in their general terms and conditions. So this may actually cause or give the users of the system some reassurance that they will not be infringing on copyrights. However, personally, I'm doubtful as to whether that actually provides a real solution, because we all know how difficult it is to turn around and pass on a claim to somebody in a fully different direction. And to stay in the AI team and to close off with the red thread, let's see what the future brings. As I said, there's quite a lot of stuff still unclear, so we'll have to see what happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Renee, for your wonderful presentations, even though many specific things are still up in the air, but we are able to know overall idea of European AI Act from a copyright perspective. So our next guest is Jonas Smits, who will discuss the challenges and opportunities companies face when confronted with the scenario of alleged infringements by artificial intelligence of the competitor. Jonas is a senior associate at Bird & Birds IP and patent litigation team in Düsseldorf. Jonas has been behind the success of major cases relating to AI infringements and licensing of AI portfolios, with experience including cases up to the Federal Court of Justice in Germany and before the Unified Patent Court. Jonas, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Jaewon, for your kind introduction, and happy to speak to all of you, and for those who stick with us still in the late afternoon. And I will be sharing my screen here with you. And Jaewon, please give me a short information if you can see my screen.
You can see your screen.
Perfect. Well, okay. In that case, let me start with my presentation. And what I want to achieve together with you today is to give you a broad understanding of what challenges we currently face with big companies in cases of potential AI infringement, and what you can do about it. With that being said, I have a short agenda and I want to start with a short case study. We will have a look at the patent landscape before we discuss how to discover infringement and what procedural means are available to our clients. Well, the very most common scenario is that an employee leaves a company. The employee has already started working for a competitor, and all of a sudden you have a suspicion that the employee or your competitor may use your technology, but at that point in time, you cannot prove it. And a couple of months later, it happens. What should not have happened is that your competitor brings a product on the market that resembles your product in a way that makes you think, well, maybe there is something behind it, and maybe it's more than just a development of the competitor, but actually an infringement of patents or trade secrets, copyrights, whatever. The question with that is, where is the connection to artificial intelligence? Well, actually, artificial intelligence is many things at the same time. And we are not only talking about Gen AI, but when we talk about the patent landscape regarding artificial intelligence, as with other spectrums like colors and visible light, the boundaries between one category and the next blend at the edges. The same is true here. And the ongoing legal debate revolves in patents around the questions whether an invention can arise from an AI autonomous search for a solution. But the debate surrounding the protection of such AI gen results has recently also been fueled by a large number of official and judicial decisions relating to patent applications for seemingly autonomous inventions. You all may have heard about the AI Darbus, a device for autonomous bootstrapping, and that made an invention which was made without human involvement, and major jurisdiction came to the conclusion that this is not worth a patent, because a patent is an invention made by a human being. And we have heard the parallel discussion from Renata already regarding copyrights, and we will later hear something about the UK perspective from Ani. And I don't want to go deep into that topic, but for the understanding of where infringement comes from, we may also have a look on the side of the patent where I want to later identify infringement from. As to the patent landscape, we currently see a clear sector-based approach regarding AI patent applications, which is telecommunications, automotive and mobility, and life and medical sciences. So these three sectors currently have the most AI applications, and these sectors also mostly my clients. This gives me the opportunity to work a lot with patents relating to AI inventions. As to the German perspective, currently, we see a rise in AI applications every day. With that being said, I put in 2 links here, and I would love if you take the opportunity to click these links at some point in time. There you can also see who are the major contributors to AI inventions at the time being. But you can also see how these separate into various nations and countries. So for infringement, discover infringement of AI. You all know that the AI itself cannot be held responsible, but you want to attack the person behind it. You want to attack the entity behind it. So it is necessary to clarify who is liable for any IP litigation and infringement cases. And what I did here is, you see the trademark logo, you see the copyright logo, and on the very right, that is intended to be a patent. So a trademark infringement is clear from the outside. You look at something and you see it and you know, well, that resembles my trademark. Copyright is a little bit more complex. You have to look into text, you have to compare texts, you have to come to a conclusion. And patents, well, that is the most complex one of these three, because patent infringement lies within the technology. And you have to first understand the patent and then understand the technology. And then you can compare each to the other and come to your own conclusion, often with the help of independent expert, court-appointed experts, whatsoever. But AI is now on the intersection of a little bit of all of these three. It's a little bit, sometimes you know something from the outside, sometimes it's in the source code, the algorithms that the AI uses, and sometimes it's the patented process or the outcome the AI provides. And according to the German Patent Act, direct use of a patent-protected invention, but also mere instigation and accessory as a participant, thus enabling direct use by another, marks one as an infringer. Consequently, you have injunctive relief claims, recall, destruction, compensation for damages, all that the law provides you with. Well, the thing here is the relevant case law considers that a producer of disks, for instance, using certain infringing data, or a logistics and export company importing infringing goods, can to some extent be held liable. So the idea here is, well, maybe in the future we have that notion also for Gen AI. That being said, if somebody is using an artificial intelligence tool, just like an importer of goods, he may be held liable. Well, we don't know yet because there hasn't been any case law, but we may see in the future. With that being said, I have a very nice overview of the University of Stanford's Center for Research on Foundation Models. They have released a very recent presentation in May 2024, which shows you the transparency index of major AI models we have, for instance, ChatGPT's 4. And what we do not know is actually what data has it been fed with, what labor has been put into, how does it compute, what methods does it use it. Actually, there is no transparency in the end, because we all know that we use these tools, but we have no idea how these have been made. And the thing is, sometimes to discover and identify and later prove infringement, I may have to take a look behind the scenes. And that is actually what we do in our daily work. We, with our clients, try to achieve methods, ways to get to look behind the scenes of the competitor. And how do we do that? Well, first of all, we may have a technical forensic analyst who looks into data compiled, maybe generated output of an AI. We have interviewers who go around, who talk to people in the companies. Sometimes people left, sometimes. So for instance, in a US proceeding, that is a very common thing to, within the means of discovery, to interview everybody, but in Europe it is not. And so oftentimes we in Europe as lawyers have the tendency to not speak to our opponents. Sometimes actually that would help a lot. But what we also do is, and every time I tell that to people, they are basically shocked. Yes, we use private investigators. We send them around. We have them looking at the sites of our competitors. We have them staying around. We have them fill out applications to work as a janitor, to get into the site, to do stuff. That is, yes, I know, on the gray scale of legal possibilities of what you can do and cannot do. You have to be very careful. You have to work with authorities together. You have to communicate with your client what you can do and cannot do, and that may change from one jurisdiction to another. But yes, sometimes it already helps to take pictures and so on and so forth. But what is most important, if you have a product, a technical product, do reverse engineering. Try to look behind it on your own before asking others to do it. Get a major understanding of the technology. Last but not least, and most important, in the end, you need help of court and the authorities. And that is, thank you very much, Renate. You basically gave me my kickstart by mentioning that there is currently an AI directive coming up that might at some point want to use discovery methods. Well, in Germany, for instance, we have that. The US has it, but they do it differently. But what we have in Germany is a model that I will talk about in a little bit, But we also have that in France. In France, it's called saisie de contrefaçon. We have it before the Unified Patent Court, granting you various measures of evidence taking. And in Germany, we call it the Düsseldorf model. Well, it's a coincidence. I'm currently working in Düsseldorf, but it was developed by a very famous judge, Judge Kühn of the Second Senate of the Higher Regional Court of Düsseldorf, who wrote the Handbook of Patent Infringement, and who developed a model that allows you to actually do a dawn raid at the site of your competitor. And these dawn raids have proven very efficient when it comes to finding infringement behind the scenes. And behind the scenes is what AI is about. There are so many tools out there. We don't know how these tools are used. Some may be used for patent protected processes in the future. Some may be used for computer implemented inventions or even to infringe those. So the procedural tactics and necessities against the former employee and his new employer, and I now come back to my case study I introduced to you. And that case study applies to the automotive industry, to the biotech, pharma, and of course to mobility and telecommunications, because we all have employees, we all need them, but not all of these are loyal as we like them to be. And so mistakes happen. Mistakes are sometimes human. Just imagine you've worked on a project, and because you have been the thriving factor behind that project, you change the employer because you got a very good offer. And what you do is, without thinking about it, you take some data with you because you think I may be able to use it at my new employer. Well, that is human behavior, but it is not allowed in most cases. And in all of these cases, you're actually having issues to then catch up with the development. So to wrap this up, what do we want to do? We want to prohibit further use of the affected IP. We want to prove whether the competitor made use of the affected IP, and we want to aim for full restitution. That being said, the applicant, my client, has the burden to prove and bring forward prima facie evidence for my claims. That brings me to the procedural means on a final note. I will try to file a preliminary injunction if I can as soon as possible. I will file action on the merits, and I will try, yes, also with a criminal complaint against the employee. And these criminal complaints in Germany have proven very efficient because the authorities go there, they analyze all the data, and you basically get through file inspection a full set of analyzed data without you having to do anything. Well, issue is you don't have the control over that kind of case. You only have control in a civil case. That's why you start with the Düsseldorf model. You get a court-appointed expert. You go to the site of their employer or your competitor. You go into it. You get it out, whatever you need, source code. You have the expert look at it. We have special experts who we work with every time. And with that being said, then we hope that we find the infringement and we bring it to court, and the court grants us preliminary injunctive relief so our competitors cannot go on and on and on. With that being said, I hope that gave you a broad understanding of where we are in AI infringement actions in Germany. We have the means to act. We have the means to act quickly and fast and also efficiently. But as always, we need to talk about it. And I learned so much from Renate already about the current proceedings, and I hope that we can have a thriving discussion afterwards about this topic. Thank you very much. Back to you, Jaewon.
Thank you, Anas, for your amazing presentations. I think now we know where we can start of our actions when we confronted the infringements by AI of the competitor. So now finally we have Arnie Francis, who will be discussing the patentability of certain AI inventions in UK and how this practice might be about to undergo the seismic changes as a result of the recent High Court decisions just appealed before the Court of Appeal. Arnie is a senior associate in Bowling WLG's UK IP team, where he primarily works on the contentious patent matters, transactional work, and strategic IP advisory work. He is qualified as a UK patent attorney and European patent attorney with over 10 years experience working in both private practice and in-house at Ericsson, where he drafted, prosecuted, and claimed chartered standard essential patents. A focal point of his work in private practice related to the computer-implemented inventions with a particular emphasis on navigating patentability and excluded subject matter objections before the UK IPO, EPO, and USPTO on behalf of his clients. Arnie, you can take the floor. You can.
Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you everyone for continuing to listen. So this is a fairly deep topic, and I know you've all been listening for a long time. So I will keep it relatively brief, but I'm sure we can circulate some of the slides afterwards. So what I want to cover today is just a brief overview of how the patentability of certain AI inventions is assessed before the UK Patent Office, the IPO, and also the EPO, and how this once harmonized or somewhat harmonized approach is possibly about to diverge as a result of the High Court decision in the emotional perception case. So first off, we'll just take a look at what the statutory provisions are for patentability in the UK and the EPO. So the UK is down on the left-hand column and the EPO is on the right. As you can see, they are very, very closely worded. And in effect, these sections say that certain types of subject matter, so mathematical methods and programs for a computer, amongst others, are not capable of being protected by patents, but only to the extent that the application or the patent relates to that subject matter as such. So that's the statutory wording applied by the patent offices and the UK courts. The actual legal tests that the UK and the EPO apply are slightly different. So in the UK, we follow this four-step test on the left-hand side, which is sometimes referred to as the error-tail test. And that includes the steps of construing the claim, identify what's called the actual contribution of that claim, ask whether that contribution falls solely within excluded subject matter. So, for example, is that contribution solely a computer program or solely a mathematical method? And then if the answer to that is no, then as a final test, we check whether the contribution is technical in nature. The EPO test is slightly different. They tend to look at whether the claim involves any technical means at all. So that could include any sort of generic computer. And if the answer to that is yes, then the claim is not excluded from patentability under the patentability criteria. But when they come to assess inventive step, it's only those features that are held to contribute to the technical character of an invention that will be considered. So as a very rough example, if we had a claim to a computer method of playing Monopoly, then the UK would say that the contribution of that is a computerized method of playing a game, and that's solely excluded, so it would fall at step 3. The EPO would say, well, there is a computer, so it's not excluded from patentability under Article 52. But when we look at inventive step, only those features that have technical character will be considered. So the part of playing the game will be excluded, and we would just be left with a generic computer, and that would held to be not inventive. So you can see that ultimately, as a result of both sets of analysis, the claim would be unpatentable. And these are just some quotes that I found from some UK judgments that effectively say the same thing, which is that the actual approach the UK and EPO have historically taken has been different, but the end result of the analysis is typically the same. So typically we find the same result as to whether a AI invention would be patentable or not. So the emotional perception judgment is the UK case that might create a difference in the two jurisdictions. I think it is probably not an exaggeration to say it is one of the key cases in patentability for several years in the UK. It's currently under appeal before the Court of Appeal, and so the actual final outcome is to be determined. I think the judgment is due any week now, but just to so this timeline here sets out some of the key events. So back in June 2022, the UK Patent Office, which are the Intellectual Property Office or IPO, refused the patent for being no more than a computer program. And then in July 2023, there was a hearing before the UK High Court that appealed the IPO's rejection of the application. Then in November 2023, the judgment from the UK High Court came down that overturned the IPO's decision and found that the claims were not excluded from being a computer program. And then recently in May, the Court of Appeal heard that appeal, and now we are currently awaiting the judgment from the Court of Appeal. So just so we can put some of the discussion in context, I've tried to summarize the invention in the emotional perception case. So do bear with me. So first of all, there is what's called a training phase, and this artificial neural network, or ANN, up the top here, receives as input pairs of music files, and each of those music files is accompanied by a written description of how that music file would be perceived by a person listening to it. So as a simple example, happy or sad. The output of that artificial neural network are these pairs of coordinates in what's called a semantic space, and the difference between the distance between those points represents how similar or dissimilar those pairs of music files are when considered semantically, so when considering the written descriptions. Separately to that, a second ANN takes the same pair of music files and is actually assessing their physical properties. So for example, the tone of the music, the speed, the loudness, things like that, and outputs the second pair of coordinates here in property space. And the algorithm is this artificial neural network is then trained so that the distance in property space is dependent on the distance in semantic space. So if the two music files are further apart in semantic space, then their distance in the property space is moved apart. Likewise, conversely, if the difference in semantic space is closer, then in property space, the distances are moved closer together. That moving apart and moving closer together is summarized on this slide here. So once this second artificial neural network is trained, then it can receive any music file and outputs its coordinates in this property space. And it can be used to identify other music files that are located nearby in property space. And because of the way the neural network's been trained, then because they are close in property space, they will be close in semantic space. So in other words, you can identify music files that have the same output on a user, for example, happy or sad, by being able to analyze quantifiable parts of that music. So it's music, its loudness and tone and so on. So what did the High Court say? Well, first off, they said that the artificial neural networks are not actually computer programs at all. because they don't execute a series of instructions that are prepared by a human, which is what we typically think of as a computer program. Instead, it operates according to an approach that it has developed itself. So this is a particularly powerful finding because of its wide applicability, because this reasoning here would seem to apply to any trained artificial neural network. And because the judge has said it's not a computer program at all, it means that you can sidestep any of the difficult questions that can arise when you have to consider the technical contribution, because it's not a computer program, it doesn't invoke the exclusions at all, and it's just held to be patentable subject matter. Hopefully, the judge also considered what the case would be if he was wrong on that, and that the artificial neural network was a computer program. And he said that the feature of providing a recommended music file that's been chosen by the artificial neural network using its technical criteria that it's worked out for itself is a technical effect. And so the claim does not reside solely in excluded subject matter. The judge said that the fact that the music file itself might be non-technical and the emotional response of the user to that music file is not technical, that is actually not relevant to the analysis. And what should be focused on is the fact that the artificial neural network has applied a technical method to select that file through its trained artificial neural network. And this is a point where this reasoning is a divergence from the EPO, where the EPO would typically look at the purpose of a claim feature when they're deciding if there's a technical effect. And I think, although this is speculation, it's very likely that the EPO, looking at this claim, would say that the purpose of these features is to select a music file and provide a music recommendation, and that is a non-technical purpose. So I think this reasoning deployed by the judge here is likely to differ from current practice before the EPO, and indeed past practice before the UK. This decision was a bit of a surprise to many of us in the UK. So as I mentioned, the IPO have appealed this decision, and the 4 grounds of appeal are set out on this slide here. But in effect, they've said that the judge was wrong to say that the claims do not invoke the computer program exclusion at all. So that's ground 1. They also said that the judge was wrong to find that there was no, the judge was wrong to find that the claimed invention did involve a substantive technical contribution. So they were the 2 main outcomes from the previous slide. And then they also appealed the fact that the judge didn't consider whether the claim was a mathematical method as such, and they only considered the computer program exclusion. So as I mentioned, the case is still pending before the Court of Appeal, or the hearing's been heard, but the judgment's not been handed down yet. So what the outcome will be is somewhat of a guess, but depending on what the Court of Appeal say, the outcome could be merely they could reject the High Court judgment, and then practice before the in the UK would be the same as it was before the emotional perception decision, who would be closely aligned to EPO. But alternatively, if they dismiss the grounds of appeal, then there could be some quite significant differences, particularly if they do dismiss ground 1 and they find the judge was correct to say that an artificial neural network is not a computer program at all. Then I think that paves the way for the UK to be able to get claims to trained artificial neural networks in the UK, regardless of what purpose those artificial neural networks are being used for. So that is a potentially very significant point of the appeal. The 4th ground about whether there is a technical contribution is also helpful, because despite it being a key component of the assessment in both the EPO and the IPO, there isn't really a universal definition of what is meant by technical contribution. So any comments the Court of Appeal make in this regard will also provide helpful guidance. And underpinning all this is the mathematical method exclusion. And it's possible that if this isn't considered fully, then it's possible that the Patent Office will simply shift from raising objections under the computer program exclusion to raising them under the mathematical method exclusion instead. So I think it's important to keep an eye on what the Court of Appeal says about the mathematical method exclusion. That concludes the kind of whistle-stop tour of patentability. As I say, we will be analysing and reporting the judgment from the Court of Appeal as soon as it's available. So if it's of interest, please do stay tuned. But in the meantime, that's everything from me. So I will now hand back, and if there's any questions, then please do just let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernie, for your great presentations. And I just checked the chat box, and it looks like we don't have any questions so far, and we are a bit behind, so I will hand over to the Samantha directly.
Thanks very much, Jaewon, and thank you so much to all our panel speakers. Thank you so much for our guest speakers as well for all your insightful sessions today. We really appreciate all your topics. Shortly after this announcement, we will be taking a group photo. So we invite all of you to turn on your cameras, and so that we can take a photo of the summit. I'd like to remind all of you that if you can please provide us with your feedback by filling in the feedback form once the session ends, because there will be an email sending to you with this form, and this really helps us understand your preferences and help us better plan for our future Young AIPPI member events. And we also encourage you all to attend the AIPPI Member Summit satellite sessions tomorrow. The Asia Pacific Middle East session will start at 8 a.m. CST, and then followed by the European session at 10:30 a.m. and then with our Americas session at 6 p.m. These sessions feature really exciting, interesting regional specific topics, and I'm sure you'll also really enjoy it. So do sign up if you have not done so yet. Lastly, I want to remind all of you that the AIPPI World Congress will take place this year in October in Hangzhou. Early bird registration will end on the 9th of July, so do take advantage of the discounted rate and register while it's available. We look forward to seeing you all in person then. During the Congress, we will also host the Young AIPPI Members Forum and other gatherings, so please stay tuned. So now we'll go on to turn on our cameras and take a group photo of the summit. So our events team members, lastly, I just really want to extend a great appreciation to all of them. Thank you so much for your great support for this summit and making it happen. So I think we're ready. So let's take a photo. We'll smile, 1, 2, 3, smile. So Cinzia, have we done so?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, all. And so just a last reminder about our WhatsApp group. Debbie has sent it to the chat just now, and we'll also send it again. If you have not joined our Young AIPPI members chat group on WhatsApp, please do so, so that you can stay connected and get to know more about our latest events, and join us and do ask any questions to us, and feel free to connect there. So thank you once again for attending our global session of our third Young AIPPI Members Summit. If you would like to stay behind to chat with us, feel free to do so. The room will still be open for another 5 minutes, but please feel free to head on to whatever you have, and we'll see you tomorrow at our satellite sessions. Thank you again for everyone joining us today. See you.